Welcome to this week's episode of Campbell and Jones Meet the Monsters, the podcast where we chart the cinematic legacy of the classic monsters. I'm John Campbell. With me, as always, Brendan Jones. Brendan. Hey, Brendan. We're doing the show now.
Sorry, I just finished watching The Bride.
Yeah.
And that was a very restful 2 hours, John.
I will say, we are watching 1985's The Bride. This is the first time I've done one of these in 3 sittings, and I will say, and I saved this for the show, one of those is because I fell asleep watching it last night, and I had to watch the rest this morning. I literally did fall asleep watching this movie, because...
Gentle listeners.
This is a peaceful, calm background white noise to fall asleep to.
All I can say is, and being the person who had seen it before, in fact, saw it in the theaters at the age of 16, thinking, "Oh man, are you kidding? A Frankenstein movie?
Oh, I mean, look,
Sting in it?
Had I been around, I would have been right there with you. I couldn't. I mean, you know, to this day, I'm a sucker for anything that's. I went and saw Victor Frankenstein with James McAvoy, and Grigoni and I went and saw I, Frankenstein with Aaron Eckhart, and Dracula Untold. Anything with these characters, I'm such a sucker for them.
Yep. And you get bit plenty of times, don't you? But the thing
way more than I ever find anything actually good. Let's say that. Yeah.
Yeah. This is, and I don't. There are plenty of different people out there with their own tastes. If you are in the market for 2-hour fan fiction of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, but with all the stakes and drama of a Hallmark Channel film, this is the one for you.
This does feel like a big budget Hallmark movie. You're kind of right about that. It does,
but without the laughs.
Yeah,
there's not even like a gay best friend.
Dude, I'll take any. Actually, I would much rather watch it. Number one, those are like 85 minutes, and they're usually kind of charming.
They zip along.
They're at least charming. Give me an Autumn Reeser or a Lacey Chabert or something. Give me somebody from a '90s sitcom in this thing.
Well, there's not. You wouldn't be able to do that with The Bride, because The Bride seems to have been like a molten metal poured into a mold that set on the outside in 1985.
Oh, God.
There is no subtracting this movie from the era it was made in.
No.
The haircuts, the blue neon MTV lighting. I was like, oh my God.
Now, when you talk about the idea about like there being defenders of this movie, I don't think there are that many out there, mainly because we talked about this movie for the first time on this show way back, probably when we did Bride of Frankenstein, I would guess.
Yeah.
And when you told me about this, I went, I've never heard of this movie, because I kind of think this movie doesn't really exist. Like, it's sort of one of those movies that is just, it's neither.
It really isn't talked about. It is not talked about in the canon, and
because it's neither bad enough to be like a truly horrendous thing, nor good enough for anybody to. So it just. It's one of those movies that just, I think, fades away. Even still, like,
very true.
You can't. I mean, it's out there. Like, I was able to rent this, but there's no collector's edition. Nobody's clamoring for the restored 4K of this thing. I
think you're right. I think it doesn't make enough of an impression to the audiences then or now to where anyone is begging for any kind of like, give me my director's cut or my 4K. People, it is right in the middle, so no one cares. I do prefer a really terrible, shitty Frankenstein movie like Frankenstein Island, which is batshit insane, and I'm laughing my way all the way through it.
Honestly, that's gonna stick with me more than this movie.
Right.
Really,
this will be out of your head within the next week, which, that is the only good thing about it. It will not take up a lot of room.
No, because it's a movie that literally washed over. Like, it was leaving my head as I was watching it almost. Like, it's just one of those things where I was consciously aware of, nothing is... Because the movie never... Here's something I thought... Because one of the reasons the movie's so boring is the movie just never raises beyond a certain pitch. It never gets to any big crescendo of anything. It's very flat throughout. Aside from the best part of the movie are the opening 15 minutes where it actually feels like a Frankenstein movie. And I was like, ooh,
right.
Okay, all right. We're flipping switches.
They made a smart choice to start on a familiar action beat or familiar horror beat, but then it immediately calms down. And like you said, it doesn't, and I was talking about stakes, it has none. It's an episodic wandering of likable enough characters, one of whom we really like to some degree, but mainly that's just because of a very sympathetic performance. The writing is bullshit in this, and there are no peaks and valleys. There's no violence. There's no horror. There's not even philosophical wonderings, which usually Frankenstein movies go way into, is that someone will go, now I know what it feels like to be God.
And honestly,
or what is the order of the universe? This doesn't even have that.
That's what I'm looking for, because honestly, that's why I kind of enjoy the Frankenstein movies most of all of the monsters, is I do like the ethical debates. And I love the whole central problem. Here's the thing. I get nothing from this Dr. Frankenstein. Now, some of that is Sting's performance, but a lot of it is the writing, which is he is so ill-defined. I have no idea what this guy is doing.
Or what he wants. You never know what he wants, even.
And that's a huge problem.
Yes.
Because
absolutely.
Much like a lot of movies we have, and this is another one where I'm not gonna go out and write a remake of The Bride right now.
No.
But the idea of taking Bride of Frankenstein and making it a love triangle between the doctor, the monster, and the bride, that's interesting to me.
It's interesting. And actually, as we found out from the trivia, had the character of Elizabeth been left in, I'm not saying anything about the actress involved or whatever. And of course, I have no idea what the script looked like with her in it. But the idea of having his previously established paramour be in it, the doctors, then that would have been a love
just conceptually
square, and that would have been
and then let's add in fucking Carrie Elways and make it a love, pentagon.
Sure.
Boy, the biggest thing I kept thinking during this is, why isn't Carrie Elways playing Dr. Frankenstein?
Well, okay, yeah.
Because there is
Carrie Elways is just a better actor,
an infinitely better actor, and better. And I'm not saying it would fix it, because the writing is still a huge problem, but a far better actor and a far better leading man in Carrie Elways. I love Carrie Elways, and he has
Sting was
nothing.
Hot at the time.
He has
and
nothing.
He looks great.
He does. It's like you look at the poster for this movie and you go, oh shit, yeah. Him in the 1800s
the hair is 80s, but also kind of that period. And him with the sharp collars and all that stuff. He looks like a very, very sophisticated, urbane, and sexy Dr. Frankenstein. The problem is that the writing lets him down, and he is really just not there. He's not the world's worst actor, but he should not have been. This movie essentially is hanging on. It is focused on two not great actors. Jennifer Beals gets there in her career, but this is only her second movie.
Jennifer Beals becomes a very good actress. I really like Jennifer Beals.
No. That's no crap thrown at her.
And that's the thing. I felt bad.
If you're going to focus a movie,
I felt bad watching
two people who are not ready.
No, and that's the thing too. Is I think Sting is great as Fayed Rautha in Dune. He's great. Yeah. And
I'm a Sting fan. The man's amazing.
Oh,
he's
brilliant.
And he's
as a
done
musician,
some amazing music over the years.
Incredible.
And as a presence on screen, even in something today like Only Murders in the Building.
He was great
with his cameos. Hilarious.
I was also going to say he's very good in Guy Ritchie's Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels.
Sure, absolutely.
But
he's good in things.
He can be good in things. This is the thing where it's not that Sting is a terrible actor. This is just beyond him, and it's poorly written. It's two things. This is too much to ask. Now, what's interesting in the trivia, though, Sting was originally cast in the Carrie Elways part.
Yes, apparently, Dr. and we'll get to it, but Dr. Charles Frankenstein.
Oh, yeah.
Charles
Hey,
Frankenstein.
that one even got me this time. As soon as they call him Charles, I went, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, I know.
Because that's one of those arbitrary, needless changes.
Well, because they had to give the name Victor to the creature.
Except they didn't.
I guess.
They didn't.
No, they did. But anyway, yeah, Charles Frankenstein.
Old
was
Chuck
apparently supposed to be
Frankenstein.
played by an older actor.
Mm-hmm. That would have been interesting.
Which would have been slightly more.
That would have given the. But here's the thing. I don't know that it would have made the movie better, but it would have given the movie something. You know, it would have given it some kind.
It would have brought a hint of incest instead of just I'm a young, sexy doctor drawn to my young, sexy, beautiful creation. If you do the father figure thing, and the father figure becomes entranced by the daughter figure, as in the bride, then there's a taboo to it, which gets creepier. And I'm sorry, but in a quasi-horror film, I want something. I want to feel a little like that is wrong. I want transgressions of either physical violence or some sort of dread, and there is nothing.
No, I mean
here.
this is a straight up drama. This is not a horror movie. There's a monster in it, but there's no horror. There's nothing even that disturbing. Even the deaths are pretty
This film is literally, and I'm talking about story structure and conception, even without actually, if you hadn't watched it.
Yeah.
But it is two movies smacked together.
Yep.
One of which is an extremely watered down, unfunny, and unromantic My Fair Lady.
Mm-hmm.
The other one is a very unmoving and not as well written relationship version of Mice and Men.
Yes.
It's of Mice and Men and My Fair Lady merged together on the bones of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, and it leaves fans of any of those properties going, that doesn't measure up.
Based on
this
what you
doesn't
just
measure
said,
up to its source material or its two inspirations. Sorry.
Hey, listeners, based on what Brandon just said, don't you want to watch this? No, don't. Don't watch this. I will say, I slightly liked the Of Mice and Men monster story. I think that is more. I'm going to say this. I think that's more compelling than the absolute nothing that is the My Fair Lady twist. That is at least
true.
That is at least
approaching. Mice and Men part doesn't have the creature really reflecting on what his life has been, where he came from. It doesn't have that. But what it does have is you can't help but like a huge, simple, childlike person being taken care of by a tiny,
I think that's
full of heart, good-hearted little person. I'm there.
The Clancy Brown and David Rappaport are the best performances in this movie.
Yep.
Unquestionably. And
I told you that, and I remember that from 1985 because I have not watched this movie since it was in the theater.
Why would you? I'll never watch this movie ever again.
Nope.
But that's where you talk about disappointment of, and you had said this, and I agree. Clancy Brown is a perfect choice for the Frankenstein monster. He is. I mean, you almost don't even have to do that much with the makeup. He's there really already. He's got the physicality. He's got the voice. You just kind of accent it.
Taken it. I mean, well, obviously, all of this could have been taken further. But if you had taken that actor and you had given him more to do, as in have the creature's intellect develop, have him start having doubts and anger. He could have taken this in any realm. He could have been the most intimidating, brilliant, scary, heartbreaking. Instead, they only let him be a simpleton for the entire film. And is he great at it? Yes, because he's a great actor.
I mean, Clancy Brown is just one of my favorite actors to begin with. He's
always But he could have been definitive. And this is not the movie for him to be definitive.
That's what I kept thinking. If a better script, we would have no doubt. I could imagine where we're just like, well, clearly Clancy Brown's the best that ever played it.
Yeah.
There's no doubt, and you can see shades of it, moments of it, glimpses of it here. But the other thing that I thought is interesting is I'm going like, ooh, the love triangle or love square or love pentagon potentially of the creature and all that stuff. That's interesting, except for the creature's off for the vast majority of the movie, so it almost feels like when they're cutting back and forth between, I'm going, what do these two things even have to do with each other beyond Frankenstein built that creature?
As you know, when they get to the end, they've been intimating in a very quiet way that there's some weird psychic bond between the bride and the creature.
nothing comes of that though. Like that
No,
really, there's
other
not
than they
satisfying.
kind of recognize each other when they
Yeah.
finally do meet again.
Yeah.
And then of course they feel drawn. But it's just like, dude, if you're going to use that, use it.
Yeah.
Instead, all it is it seems to almost be incidental. Like she's riding a horse, cut to him miles away going, I would like to ride a horse. And you're like, oh, okay, I guess they are connected.
It is very clumsily and stupidly done, yeah.
Yep. It's there. They just do it.
Who's responsible for this movie, Brendan? Who made this film? Lloyd
this is one of those weird,
is the writer of this movie.
This is one of those situations we talked about before where the writer basically pitched the director. So the script came first, and then he recommended Frank Rodham.
Okay, I've seen some of this guy's movies. I saw Gotham with Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah.
It's not much.
Well, I spent the entire time waiting for Batman to show up, so I was very disappointed.
Well, Two-Face is in it. I don't understand why Batman's not in it.
The Lords of Discipline.
Yeah, I've seen that.
That's his very first one. That's good.
I've seen
solid.
Cherry 2000.
Yeah.
It's not great either. And then he has a screen story credit on 1999's The Mummy because we know that's a movie that went through 800 drafts before it landed on the Stephen Sommers version. So
who knows how much credit to give
maybe he might have been involved in the Clive Barker version or the Mick Garris version of that. I mean, so many people.
He really does not have many credits at all.
And based on this and some of these other movies I've seen, good.
Yeah,
the guy is not a strong.
Is terrible.
No, Lords of Discipline is by far the best thing he worked on, and even that's just kind of okay.
Yeah, true.
So, for all you David Keith completists out there,
of which there are so many.
Yeah, not Keith David,
but yeah,
David Keith.
This is a terrible script, and he roped in the director Frank Rodham.
Yeah,
who
is it
roped
Frank
in
or
Sting
Frank?
Because Frank Rodham had done Quadrophenia, the movie.
Yes.
Sting is good in that.
Oh shit. Okay,
that's young stud Sting in Quadrophenia.
By the way, I just like that this guy now works on Gordon Ramsay TV shows.
Who? Lloyd or Frank?
Frank,
the director, is working on Hell's Kitchen.
He's working on MasterChef.
Oh, MasterChef. Oh,
he's been involved in every version of MasterChef.
Oh, wow.
He's the executive producer of the MasterChef franchise.
Wow. His directing credits are so skimpy. That's crazy.
Oh, he also directed Lords of Discipline.
Okay, Quadrophenia, Lords of Discipline, The Bride.
Oh, I saw. He did one of the segments in Aria, which that movie.
He did
much
K2.
like K2. Oh, he did. I like the Patrick Stewart Moby Dick miniseries.
It's okay. A TV miniseries.
It's okay.
Novel.
The big appeal is just seeing Patrick Stewart play Ahab, right? Like that's and Gregory Peck is in it, which is nice.
Sure.
Yeah. Patrick Stewart really sells you on that. And then I never saw this Cleopatra TV miniseries he did.
I'm sure it was great.
Yeah. It's got Billy Zane, so it has to be good.
Done.
Billy Zane.
Mark Antony.
He's Mark Antony. Timothy Dalton is Julius Caesar.
Oh, wow.
And who's Cleopatra? She's not on the poster. Or she's on the poster, but they don't give a name. They don't mention who she is. Ooh, Oded Fair is in it, talking about that 1999 movie.
Oh, yeah. We all love him.
An actual Egyptian man in a Cleopatra movie? Never.
What?
Never. Lenore Varela. She's very exotic looking.
Oh, wait. Is Lenore Varela from... Isn't she in The Mummy?
I don't think so. I've seen that movie many times.
Isn't she in a
she may be
movie?
now in a Mummy movie may very much be the case here. I hate when they don't list these people by how important they are in the movie, so I can't. Oh, there she is, Lenore Varela. This is how much we don't want to talk about the Bride. Oh shit, she's in Blade 2. She's the vampire daughter that Blade kind of has a love interest with in that movie.
Yeah.
Okay, I know who she is because I've seen that movie.
I may be mixing it up.
And I've seen that movie. She's also in The Man in the Iron Mask.
I saw that.
Yeah, I like that movie. Oh,
actually, I did too.
Wait, she played Marta on Arrested Development.
Yes, she was Marta.
There
she
we
was
go.
one of the Martas.
She was
because
one
there
of the
were two
Martas. Yes, she was one of the Martas. Yes. Okay. Oh, she was in The Curse of King Tut's Tomb, which was a TV movie that we will get to.
I'd hate to think that's what I was thinking of, but anyway.
I don't think it's that, yeah. But anyway, we'll get to that because I was just putting together our season for the 2000s because I'm always 2 seasons ahead of
John,
us.
we are 2 hours into this podcast and we haven't talked about the poster.
Which is terrible.
Oh, yeah, it's awful.
It's very, very 80s.
It is.
This is what I think of like every VHS cover looking like.
Yeah, it's a close-up of Jennifer Beals' face that has undergone severe filters to make it extremely noisy and pixelated.
And yet she still looks great.
Because she's one of the most beautiful women that's ever walked the face of the earth.
I mean, and that's an interesting take on the bride, right? Is that, I mean, Jennifer Beals is almost like too stunning. I mean, she's distractingly beautiful, and that's an interesting way to take the bride. But it's also, once again, a non-horror way, because the second she comes out of the wrapping, I'm going, oh, hey, no makeup, scars, or anything. Okay, all right. Well, there's a way to not make an interesting monster movie to me.
I kept expecting her to look at some scars on herself, even if it was because I later talk about the hands had to be gotten rid of, and I had to put new hands on.
I like the idea.
It's like maybe showing some scarring around her wrist. Fine.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to have the scarred up face, but like make it seem like she's stitched together somehow. It seems like he just built this amazing, perfect woman who has no flaws, and you're going like, that's odd.
Ladies and gentlemen, she has no flaws.
Oh yeah, and still
she's
doesn't. The
beautiful.
woman's 58 years old, and I just saw her on. She's on the cast of Law and Order: Organized Crime now, and she's still absolutely stunning.
There are people whose genetics, and weirdly, I think there's a certain body type, and this is me just riffing, but the whole thing is that she, and I obviously have a type. Mm-hmm. She is similar to a Jane Seymour type, where you have sort of a lithe ballet build.
Yes.
And their features are very fine, China doll-like, and huge eyes. This is obviously, brunettes with big eyes is a big thing for me.
Sure.
So Jane Seymour and her are two immortal beauties who don't, it's like time hasn't even touched them. Yeah. You could even throw Helen Mirren into that mix simply because her build back in her youth, and you're like, wow, and she just kept it together. God damn. Sorry. I'm sorry. I know this comes across creepy.
I will say,
but you guys watch this movie, or you could watch Flashdance, which is even nominally a better film.
Oh, Flashdance is way more watchable than this. It's a far more entertaining movie. Yeah,
it's trash, but it's entertaining trash.
And I think, actually does elevate that, even if that's her first movie.
Does.
She's so. I mean, you can. That movie.
You never buy her as a Steel Town girl
on a Saturday night.
On a Saturday night, you cannot picture her actually working in a steel mill.
But she's so charming.
Put a little smudge of like grease like on her nose. And she's like, man, it's been a tough day.
My problem with Flashdance was always I thought the male lead was kind of boring. Was that Michael Nuri? Is he the main guy in that?
I think it is Nuri.
Yeah, and I've always thought. I mean, good character actor, but once again, could have used a stronger leading man there, I think.
I think you're you need to watch it when you're talking about Michael Nuri, okay?
Got a lot of Nuri heads out there.
You're talking about Cliffhanger's Dracula.
Hey man, that's something we might do on a bonus thing.
Man, would I love to cover Cliffhangers, if only the Dracula storyline, but I liked the other two as well.
Yeah.
So anyway, you've got this picture of
and
her,
then of course her eyes are lightning striking.
Yeah, they have literally just cut out holes where her eyes were, and then underneath
she's actually just staring at the logo for Don Simpson, Jerry Bruckheimer Productions.
yeah, and going, oh god. And then they put lightning.
By the way, the producers of Flashdance, Don Simpson, Jerry Bruckheimer.
Just a steel town girl on a Saturday night.
That was their movie.
I won't sing anymore.
That was them. Bruckheimer and Simpson. So I know, but it's always an odd one to me because it doesn't seem
a huge hit.
It was a huge hit, but it doesn't seem like Top Gun,
kind of
Crimson Tide, The Rock. They're sort of later.
Actually, it reminds me a lot of Top Gun. I mean, it's like the same story, except for you substitute the thing that the person's good at, the person from the lower means, but has a secret talent. Secret talent isn't driving race cars or jets. Secret talent is dancing her ass off.
I think the thing that does connect Flashdance as well and also their movie before that, American Gigolo, there is a style across all those.
Yeah,
That is
same
very
style.
stylized, and so even though American Gigolo, Flashdance, and Top Gun are very different movies, they do kind of feel like they're made by the same guys.
Yes.
So anyway, back to The Bride, and then of course we got a little sting in there.
Well, that is one of those obvious later additions.
Hello, I'm
That's
here
one of those
too.
things-
I'm in the
because
movie
it's
as
in
well.
a different style.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, we'll just cut out a photo,
Hi.
glamour shot of Charles Frankenstein, and stick him on there.
It's me, Charlie Frankenstein. I'm here too. Don't you worry about. But you know what's not on the poster?
Your old Baron Chuck Frankenstein.
Yeah, that's right. This all
yes.
here. This is just no monster though. Seemingly to guys like you and I, the selling point of a Frankenstein movie is I want to see the monster, or at least the inference of the monster, a silhouette
the
or
movie
something.
is not called The Monster. It's called The Bride. And right under Chuck, another also bugs me. Not only is he cut out and is in a different style,
Yeah.
but they also didn't even bother to kind of like color match because he's in this sort of pastel blue.
Yeah,
And so even like
it's so bad.
color temperature is totally wrong. So it totally looks that someone had some glue stick and they just smacked this on there. And then underneath him is the logo, which is a pretty good logo.
Yeah, actually, yeah, that's fine. And then, I mean, and even the tagline makes me kind of want to watch the movie, right?
Sure.
A woman born of electricity, a man driven by obsession. But then when you
Sure.
see the movie, is he? Because we never see him experimenting ever again. After he makes Jennifer Beals and the lab blows up, it's like,
I know.
Where's
That's
the
one of
obsession?
problems. We never see the obsession. We never see him like, well, I succeeded. Now I want the world to know. No, he doesn't do that. Or I've succeeded, but I can be even better. So I'm going to keep going. We don't
Yeah.
see that. We see nothing. It's like he finished her and was like,
no.
oh, all right.
Aside from
Now
the
let's
first,
settle into society.
aside from the opening experiment sequence, nothing about this character feels like anything I think of as Dr. Frankenstein. Any of the interesting things about Dr. Frankenstein aren't here. Who I do find to be one of the most compelling characters in horror fiction is Dr. Victor Frankenstein. I guess this is Chuck Frankenstein, his loser cousin or whatever.
Yeah. But yeah, it's very true that not only the obsession goes away, but like I said before, his wants are mysterious. We don't at this point. He just settles back into a Henry Higgins role of like, I will teach you manners.
Well, that's the thing. Even the
and
intellect,
that becomes his whole
even
storyline.
the intellect kind of goes away, and he's just sort of this like prickish
There's like
taskmaster.
2 conversations with his buddy Clerval.
Oh my god!
that-
And Clerval
and-
has a nothing character in this thing.
Yeah, and he's a sort of like a gadabout.
Mm.
And he's like, so when are you going to tell me where you really found this girl? Because he just comes up with a cover story of like, she had an accident. She was found by locals. She doesn't remember who she is. So I've called her Ava, and she's now my ward.
Yes, exactly.
The end.
Great.
Yeah, that's all you needed.
Yeah.
The end.
Yeah. Also, he named her Eva after the first woman, who I've always referred to as Eve, but you know,
They should have had him say like, I'm naming you after the first woman, but giving it a little twist.
yeah.
So you're now Eva.
Well, and then
All
by
right.
that logic, shouldn't he have called the monster Adam? But you know, whatever. This movie
No, he
couldn't
gets a
give
name given
shit.
to him by a little person.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very fitting name
I guess
because it means he will win.
and spoilers. That's kind of what happens.
Okay, you can just turn it off, everybody. You can turn off the podcast.
Clancy
Done.
Brown gets Jennifer Beals.
Yeah, I thought that was weird on the poster because underneath it's like she was born of electricity and he's driven by obsession, but the monster's gonna get it in parentheses underneath it. I thought that was interesting.
And I do think this is interesting because the trivia keeps referring to this as a remake of Bride of Frankenstein, and you're like, no, this isn't like that movie at all.
This movie starts where we're familiar.
Yeah.
It has the creation scene,
And like I said, best scene in the movie, and
the
because
set looks great.
I mean, I'm so bummed they destroy this lab because this is one of the best Frankenstein labs we've seen. It's epic
Yes,
and
it's
it's
a great
gothic
looking
and
set.
mad scientisty. And you're going like, boy, they
And
spent a
it's
lot on
shot
this.
pretty well. I mean,
It is.
this director we're going to crap on because this is a boring ass movie, but here he's moving that camera around. There's some interesting angles.
Where
They've
is
got
this
this
energy?
weird idea of the setup where the creature is not only wrapped up but also attached to these like
Yeah.
ribbon-ish
I
bandages. So
love
when it
this.
gets hit by lightning, it's not even on the table. It's lifted above
And
like a
so
puppet.
it's moving about and
and it
spasming
jangles.
and it's great.
And there are tubes of other unfinished bodies that jerk around whenever there's an electrical charge. That's weird as fuck.
See, that is cool. That feels like horror. That feels creepy.
For half a second.
Yeah, I want to see.
And-
I want to see David Cronenberg direct The Bride. Man,
Oh.
that's what this movie needed.
It's weird that he's never attempted a Frankenstein because he's Mr. Body Horror.
I know he would be. He would make. I mean, I don't know about the best, but certainly the most disturbing Frankenstein movie.
Oh, undeniable.
Yeah.
So essentially, also in the opening, Sting is also his most alive, and you get two interesting cameos. One of which wouldn't have meant anything in 1985 because he was too young.
Timothy Spall.
And the other one, yeah, Timothy Spall.
Love
who
Timothy
I
Spall.
love.
Great character actor.
Oh my God, can do anything. He's one of those Brits where you're like going, put him in a drama, he'll break your fucking heart. Put him in a comedy, he is one of the funniest people ever.
He can be a good guy. He can be a bad guy. He can be likable. He can be totally disgusting, like in.
For our fans out there who don't dig as far back, I mean, he's in the Harry Potter movies.
Yeah.
He played Wormtail, the snivelly wizard who turns into a rat.
Yeah.
And he's great. But anyway, so he is the Igorish type.
And the fact that he dies so fast here, though,
opens it.
he dies so fast. I'm going like, oh man, Timothy Spall's such a good actor.
As does the other surprise cameo, which I'd forgotten about, Quentin Crisp.
Yeah, and so
Crispy.
much is made in the trivia about this guy being in it, and then it's like, yeah, but he's barely in it.
He is. This is like his only. I mean, at this age, he was like in his 70s already.
Yeah.
He was an established British eccentric and author, highly flamboyant, out and proud gay man.
What?
So sort of a
No,
gay
it's-
icon.
Yeah. Just take a look
and
at his
he
IMDb profile, folks.
Yeah. And he's kind
Hello.
of your Dr. Polidori. He's your like the other older doctor.
Just let's ditch all the interesting stuff from past Frankenstein movies, though, right?
Sure, you have it all here in the beginning. So the lightning is charged, and the weird contraption and the needle that has to be tilted down with sand. I mean, this is a great design.
I was like, the first 15 minutes of the movie, I'm going, shit, this is great.
Yeah,
This
So
is
lightning,
really good.
The lightning strike does, of course, energize the body, and then he's like, "All right, now turn the arm around and shut all this down." And it doesn't happen soon enough, so the body's getting way too much electricity. And I keep thinking, are we going to see flames or smoke? No,
That would have been cool. I mean,
so
the
instead-
lab starts to blow up, though, which is cool.
The lab does start to blow up.
I mean,
and
I do like
basically-
that the movie comes in on what would normally be the third act or whatever of a Frankenstein movie,
Right.
where the lab's exploding.
And we do get cuts to the creature, who is, of course, already alive. He is not in the lab. He's somewhere else in the castle, and he's reacting like, ugh. He knows that things are going wrong.
Right.
He's anxious like an expectant father.
Yeah.
And
I like that play on the creature, too, where it's like,
yeah,
she's my mate, you know?
yeah, because this is what he asked him for. So you can essentially say this is picking up at a certain point in the novel. So they do eventually shut things down, but Frankenstein's like, well, we ruined it. She's dead.
Yeah.
Oh, we fucked up.
Yeah.
And then she goes, ah! And he goes, wait a minute.
Hold on. Maybe I was completely wrong about that dead thing.
And also, those bandages would have singed.
Yeah.
Instead, they're pristine white. He cuts the bandages off the eyes. The eyes are absolutely beautiful and perfect because they're Jennifer Beals eyes. And then they cut the whole thing off the head, and it's the most beautiful head there's ever been with long flowing hair.
Yeah.
So apparently they didn't have to pop a brain in. They just took a whole head.
Yeah, this is the kind of stuff where I'm going like, this is where I'm starting. As soon as this, I'm like, uh-oh. No makeup work of any sort on Jennifer Beals.
I know.
I don't think this is going to be my kind of movie.
Yeah, unrealistically, like, all right, let's say that they didn't want to make her scarred up, but still the hair comes out of this thing and it's just long flowing hair
Yeah.
commercial perfect.
Yeah.
You're like, guys, maybe she's sweaty, maybe
Yeah.
something, but she should not look perfect.
Yeah. It's weird. It once again it takes away from what I want out of a Frankenstein movie. There is no sense of I've built a monster, even if it's a beautiful monster. Like they did such a good job, of course, and that's why it's so iconic with the Elsa Lanchester thing, where she is beautiful, but in a creepy way too. You know,
Yeah,
like
and also, of course, Elsa Lancaster's take on it was, her movements were like just like a newborn or an odd thing. So they weren't human; they were quick and jerky.
That movie still packs a punch. This movie never comes close to.
No. So Jennifer Beal sits up and she is like an infant. She's just looking around and words aren't, she's like making noises.
Yeah.
Then the creature busts in like, is she ready?
Yeah. Let me at her.
He comes in. His first line is it soup yet? And I was like, what? He comes
Is it soup yet?
Again, you've got a great actor there, but his dialogue, well, everyone's dialogue's terrible.
The script is the cardinal sin here. There's no question about
Comes
that.
in, he is stunned by her beauty also, and he's very excited. He's also very possessive because he bats the guys away and he goes, mine.
You made
and
her
he
for
grabs
me.
her hand. She doesn't do any kind of freak like Elsa did. She just
Missed
looks at him like,
opportunity
I don't
there,
know
too.
what this is about.
Yeah.
She starts making noise, and then Frankenstein's an asshole right off the bat.
Yeah.
Chuck smacks the creatures like, you, I don't know, he insults him, you brainless clod or something. He goes, get your fucking filthy hands off of her.
Yeah.
And then the creature goes, not mine? Like he's confused, like, I'm sorry, didn't we?
Dude,
isn't she for me?
I made her way too hot for you, man. Way too hot. But
that is the point.
It would have been nice to have seen, and this I don't put on Sting. Once again, this is on the screenplay, to have seen the progression of Frankenstein's obsession with her. And
I think they try. It really doesn't pay off.
I hate Frankenstein from moment one.
Yeah, exactly. He's an asshole right off the bat. And first, he does seem like, I'm just going to tutor her.
Yeah.
And then they slowly make it. And Clerval is the guy basically going, dude, don't you want to fuck that?
Yeah.
And later in the movie, he is going, you know what? I am jealous of everyone that looks at her, and I do.
I did think it was weird though when Clerval said, "Baby got back."
Yeah. Again, I think that's where the phrase started.
Yeah,
1985 is where "Baby Got Back"
Sir
started.
Mix-a-Lot was a big fan of this movie, actually.
The idea of Sir Mix-a-Lot even knowing this fucking movie is funny to me.
Sir Mix-a-Lot sitting in a theater watching The Bride.
So he the doctor basically, and then what sends him into a rage? Is it just this?
It is,
and then the doctor starts waving the torch at him,
and he starts flipping out and destroying the lab, and then everything starts exploding. This is though where you get some of the cool, like he busts open jars and there's like a weird moving head in it and stuff. And I'm going, the movie needed way more of this kind of stuff.
Well, it needed something.
This is a Frankenstein movie with no style at all, and no substance.
It very true. It is interesting that in this scene, the doctor is the aggressor. The creature is hurt and confused, but the only thing that makes him go into a monstrous rage is the fact that his creator is being such a fucking asshole.
This monster across the board is peaceful.
Yep.
Only
unless you fuck with something he loves.
And only comes at things when he's provoked, whether directly or indirectly as somebody having done something to him. This monster is wholly sympathetic.
Yeah. So everything is going up in flames, and very quickly Timothy Spall's character is literally just a fireball.
And that was when I was like, damn.
And the tower starts crumbling,
because I want to see Spall play
by some rubble.
I know. I want to see both of these guys more in the movie. And who doesn't want to see Timothy Spall play Igor? Basically, that sounds awesome.
Yep, and it was awesome for about 2 to 3 minutes.
No, I was really excited when it starts. I thought, oh, he's gonna be our Igor. Oh, I love that. Oh, he just blew up.
and there's a wall of fire separating Doctor and Bride, who's she's just like, I don't know what's going on, and the creature, and then there's the big explosion, which is nicely shot from the outside, We see the tower explode,
I
and it's
mean,
assumed that the creature is dead. Hey, guess what, folks? He's not.
no, well, certainly
And
not.
the doctor escapes with the bride.
This was a $13 million budget, which was decent in 1985. And that's the thing. Across the board, the movie never looks cheap or bad or anything like that. It's all very handsome. I will say, $13 million budget. Brendan, any guess on the film's worldwide gross on a $13 million budget?
Whew, I'm gonna guess it made 2.5 million.
That's pretty close. It made 3.5.
Oh wow!
So still a fucking disaster.
I know this was a bomb.
An absolute disaster.
Yep, it was.
And I do see.
And we said this. This had the feeling of someone trying to do a prestige version of a pulp classic.
Yeah.
Just like your Greystoke, where it's like, look, you can spend money and hand some things up and try to make it look like it is this. But if you rip the spirit out of a thing, then no one wants it.
It's interesting because, a few years later in the 90s is where they'll start doing it, but they are successful. Your Francis Ford Coppola Dracula, both is prestige and leans into the pulp as well, though.
Well, that's what I was about to say. Francis Ford Coppola got it right, and I like a lot of that movie. We have our differences on it, but I like a lot of that movie. And he never goes so far into, but this is the snazzy version, to forget it needs to be horrific.
Yeah.
There needs to be blood and creatures and shadows.
There's arguably more of that stuff in his version than almost any other Dracula.
Arguably so.
Yeah. And then of course we'll talk more about this in reaction to the Kenneth Branagh Frankenstein movie.
Yeah. Which is also unsuccessful, but is still a better watch than this.
Oh yeah, I mean, I like that movie. I think it has its issues, but I think it's successful in a lot of ways. And this one is almost across the board a failure.
I'd say The Bride is one of the more effective things in that.
Unquestionably, and that movie is creepy and gothic, and what I want at least the feeling to be, which this is. Aside from this sequence, like I said, right off, I'm going like, oh shit, I'm kind of into this.
Very quickly,
the movie loses me from here on out.
The movie very quickly becomes really standard costume drama nonsense.
Because we transitioned from this to the bride, or Eva as she will be called, in bed, sort of waking up like, and immediately this is where we're talking about. Sting is pretty lecherous though. Right away, he's like in bed with her here, going, "Oh, calm yourself, my child."
Yeah,
and I don't know if that's just because he's Sting.
Line of like,
there's an inherent sexuality to Sting, I guess, but
there's that.
Yeah, which once again Lynch uses in Dune when he shows up in his thong and stuff like that.
When he shows up in his winged thong.
Yeah, his little space speedo. But there is sort of a like, I mean, there's just such a better use of Sting as this like, I am human perfection.
Well, yeah, at that point, you're actually playing into what he should be. There's no reason the doctor should be beautiful.
No.
Dr. Frankenstein can be young and driven, and certainly he doesn't have to be an ugly man, but this is clearly them putting an extremely beautiful man in this part, and where you're like going, did he not... How is he able to study during university?
Because it's in reaction to what you just said. This will sound like a slam, but it's not. But I think that's where I think Branagh is a good fit for Dr. Frankenstein. Handsome, younger guy, but, I buy him more.
Branagh radiates an intelligence. Yes. Not that Sting doesn't. Right. It's just that Sting is not an adept enough actor. He's hitting his emotional beats, but you don't see anything behind the eyes. You don't see that obsession, that intelligence.
It's just a bad fit, man. He would have been better.
And Branagh's a very handsome man, but he's not. This is Greek god Sting.
Yes, Sting is pretty.
Yeah, he and Jennifer Beals together in these scenes, if they were better written and this wasn't a Frankenstein movie, you just sit there going, holy fuck, can you imagine the children that they will have, because these are the most beautiful people they've had.
Totally, where you just, they are both distractingly attractive.
Did you read the bit of trivia that said for her sad scenes, she requested she needed like 15 minutes for each scene to listen to music on her headphones, and then she'd come in, and then she was always listening to the same tape. And then one of the props people took the Walkman from her and found out it was a tape of Sting's songs.
Yep.
She was listening to Sting music to get into the mood.
Message in a bottle. No, I don't think it was that.
Basically,
but,
what I'm saying is,
yeah.
No, 85 was probably his first solo album, probably Dream of the Blue Turtles.
We're post. Oh, wow, you are a fan.
Well, listen.
I don't know. I don't know the albums. I know the hits. I'm a fan enough.
Right there at that point when he broke from the Police at the height of their commercial success, and I loved their 80s stuff.
See, I'm a much bigger Police fan than I am Sting on his own.
Yeah, and that stuff kicks, and Sting stuff is a little wimpier. But the thing is that he didn't have to listen to them about his smart lyrics, and I'm a smart lyrics guy, and he brought in Branford Marsalis and all the jazz guys.
Sure.
But that album, that first album, is great, and I went to that tour.
Oh, nice!
It was awesome.
Sure.
But that's the one that if you love somebody, set them free, free, set them free. It's all that album, and I'm just imagining her listening to that stuff before she had to come on and look like weepy-eyed Ava, the poor young innocent creature.
This movie shot for 14 weeks. Jesus, that's long for a movie like this.
Yeah, I will say this again.
Even the shoot was boring and long from the sound of it.
I bet it was. This is beautifully shot. 13 million. I don't know what it all went to because nothing blows you away on it. But they went to locations. They were at real castles in Spain or Portugal or something, and
looks good,
gorgeous.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing, looking through the reviews of the time, which are pretty overwhelmingly negative. Everybody says handsome. Everybody says nice. It looks nice. Oh, well, okay. All right. I'm looking at who the cinematographer is. Stephen Burham, who primarily worked with Brian De Palma almost exclusively. Outside of this, shot one of my absolute favorite movies of all time, which is The Untouchables, of course, with Mr. De Palma.
Wow.
I think a stunning film.
It is.
And then, basically, he also shot 1994's The Shadow, which you and I don't see exactly eye to eye on, but is a good. But
it's shot very,
very well shot, and then shot pretty much all of Brian De Palma's films.
Well, so you got someone really good behind the camera, and you can tell. Yeah. It's just that, again, it's boring as shit. And that's not his fault either.
This guy shot Mystery Men? That's interesting.
Oh, wow.
I love that movie. And that movie actually is pretty well shot for being a superhero comedy.
Yes. So no shade thrown his way because...
No, in fact, I would say he's one of the high points of this movie.
Right. And unlike Hammer... they at least had the budget to fill the frames whenever there are supposed to be other people on screen, which unfortunately is not enough because it's usually two people in a boardroom or a dining room talking about what is this? Why that is a fork.
You also get these very grand ball scenes that don't really do anything either, though. Other than they're very grand and how they look.
You have a lot of people in the circus scenes. You have a lot of people whenever they're in a town. You have a lot of people at the costume ball. So it's like, wow, that's great. It feels like a world. Too bad it's in this movie.
Yes, exactly. That's across anything that's good here is like, too bad it's in this movie. I go, but when they talk about Clancy Brown had to be in makeup for like 5.5 hours, I'm going like, oh man, for this movie?
I will say, I will also give some credit to the makeup. It's not amazing, but it's good. And they did the thing similar to what Branagh did and the book did, which is over time, some of those scars start to heal, which means there's a progression to the makeup. Like Clancy Brown's hair grows in, the depth of the scars starts to soften, and by the end, he looks like still a big, brutish man, but he does not look like a monster, and that's because the wounds were healing over time. I liked that. That was a good touch.
That is nice. Once again, it's just in
it's in a bad movie.
So while we have Frankenstein comforting Eva, we have our creature just wandering through the woods. This I am like, okay, now we're back to a Frankenstein movie. Creature wandering through the woods. We've seen that in literally everything we've ever done, pretty much with this character.
Yeah, but almost within 2 minutes of wandering through the woods, and I would assume he probably has only walked about half a mile. Mm-hmm. He runs across a group of children who are picking on someone, saying, "Leave me alone, leave me alone."
Mm-hmm.
And the creature's smiling like children at play. Then he realizes that they're actually torturing this person, and the person is a little person, here in this movie referred to as a midget, so maybe I will slip into that a few times.
Well, I mean, if we quote any dialogue from it, they do use it a lot, which is, of course, he refers to himself as a dwarf. Everybody else calls him a midget.
He does refer to himself as a dwarf. That's true. And this is David Rappaport as full-grown dwarf, Ronaldo. And David Rappaport was one of the great. Unfortunately, he passed away, and he was only 38.
Yeah,
that's shitty. But he was one of the really good little person actors. Like, he's a real good actor.
Hey, man,
who happened to be
Time Bandits, one of my favorites.
Time Bandits, he's one of the best in that. And of course, he was all over BBC TV.
He, like I said, he is one of my favorite parts of this movie. When he's on screen, you just can't not like this guy. Even in this movie that's not working, I'm just going like, I like Ronaldo. I like this performance. I like the energy between him and Clancy Brown. Wish it went somewhere more interesting. Wish the movie was better around them, but they're very good together. And when they're on screen,
really
when they cut back to this section of the movie, I am going like, okay, I'm finding this watchable.
Yeah. It's still not what I want, but these two are just undeniably a good pair.
Yeah,
so essentially,
I can
all
sit
it is
through
is,
this movie.
The monster's mere appearance breaks up the fight. The kids run away, and Ronaldo's freaked out too. But then he goes, "Hey, we're kind of alike." He's like, "Yeah, I bet you get weird looks everywhere you go. So do I." And I'm on my way to is it Bucharest or Budapest?
It is Budapest.
Yes, he's on his way to Budapest. It's a long way, but that's his goal. He wants to join a circus. And he goes, "You can come with me if you want." And the creature's like, "I got nothing better to do," which is his second line of dialogue after "Is it soup yet?"
Yeah.
And his lines are all very simple. Like, he goes,
I got nothing else
Ronaldo.
doing.
And he goes, "Naldo." He's like, "Right. I'm going to Budapest." Budapest. Right. So basically, the creature follows him, and they are going to be traveling companions. And
we're
eventually
on the road to Budapest.
And eventually, Ronaldo's like, "Hey, you're really strong and huge. I bet you could even put me on your shoulder without any trouble whatsoever. You wouldn't even feel me up
This
there."
is legitimately cute. Like, I like
It
this.
is.
I'm going like, oh, I like these two. Then it cuts back to Sting and Jeffrey. I'm like, oh, fucking hell.
I know. So essentially, he tricks the creature, who doesn't have a name yet, into carrying him on his shoulder while they walk. And it's true. The creature's like, "Yeah, I could do that. No problem." So Ronaldo gets to ride on the creature's shoulder.
Dude, just give me a whole movie of these two off on adventures. I'm much happier with that.
Yeah, it's about half and half. So we get maybe.
I just wish the adventures,
maybe 40, 45
just wish the
minutes.
adventures were better. They go on.
The adventures are also kind of lame. This is what I said. It's
whole
like
movie's
Mice and
lame.
Men.
Yeah, that's not.
Instead of them finding a ranch to work on, they just end up at the circus. And what happens at the circus is stupid.
Yeah,
because it's
dumb.
like, why are they hated immediately? Why are they singled out by the guy?
Isn't he making the money? They're like the most popular show, and they're filling seats, and the guy's like, "Fuck those two."
I know. And he's like, "All right, finally ends up, I'm going to pay you a full wage." And you're like going, "Aren't you doing that for everybody else? Do you hate all of them too? What is your point?"
Doesn't seem like they're doing better than some of the acts. If anything, maybe cut pay to or ditch some of the shittier acts or something.
Yeah, the dumb clowns or the whatever.
And also, the second they introduce what Ronaldo's doing, I'm like, I know how he dies.
Oh yeah. Well,
I know what's gonna happen.
I've read enough Batman comics to know what happened to the Flying Graysons.
Yeah.
Okay?
Oh man, he's gonna. No! Don't let Tony Zuko anywhere near this.
Oh my God! Yeah, circuses. I'm telling you, that is the breeding ground for vengeance-laden survivors of violence.
Nothing but murder.
Nothing but murder at circuses.
We just had, well, it's not a circus, but, carnival similar kind of thing. We just had Nightmare Alley out from Guillermo del Toro. Things don't fucking go well in that either. Jesus
I still haven't seen that one. So
it is so good. Do yourself a favor and watch that. It is.
Isn't it on one of the streamers?
It's on HBO Max right now. You can be watched, and it is excellent. One of my
I'll
absolute
watch it
favorite
tonight.
movies
I
from last
love
year.
me some Guillermo,
It
and I
is,
love that it's an adaptation of a classic noir. I'm
yeah,
good.
and it is so aggressively a noir, and that's why people didn't see it. I
Because
said,
noirs tend to be downers, ladies and
oh
gentlemen.
yeah, but I sat there in the theater going, brilliant. And of course I'm going, what's that? It's a total bomb. Yes, that adds up.
And you also kept saying, "Is it soup yet?" And
Yeah.
you hadn't even seen this movie.
Is it soup yet?
I don't know why that's going to be my phrase for Clancy Brown's creature,
Is it
but it
soup
is.
yet?
Yeah, it becomes the catchphrase T-shirt.
Yeah,
Anyway,
can we do a T-shirt
by
for
the
the
way,
show?
Turning Red, which just came out for Pixar. Yes, I've just dated our podcast again.
Mm-hmm.
All I can say is one of the reviewers pointed out that it's almost beat for beat Teen Wolf, and it is.
Hey, nothing wrong with that, and especially I think it, from the sound of it, is a better Teen Wolf.
Well, it's funnier and more delightful, and the animation is amazing. So
There you
yeah,
go. Actually,
but anyway,
Teen Wolf as a cartoon does kind of work better in some ways as I think about it.
yeah, it would have been a fine animated feature.
Yeah, they did
Especially if you kept the boobs.
Yeah, they did make an animated series of Teen Wolf that I've never seen that lasted for like one season.
Did they?
Yeah, it was on the.
I lived through it, but I don't remember having
Teen
watched.
Wolf the animated series was a show because once again I said the father in that is in literally every Teen Wolf
right,
thing.
that's right. He actually
including
reprised his role.
doing the voice of the father in the cartoon show.
Pretty amazing.
We'll get to Teen Wolf 2 soon enough, Brandon. Keep going.
I can't wait. Now, is that TOO? Because I'll need help looking that up.
Here's the thing, man. That movie's going to be far more watchable than this shit, though.
Yes, ma'am.
This could have used some Bateman
meanwhile,
charm.
back at the Frankenstein estate, not much is going on.
No, what do I have here? Henry discusses science, or Clerval. They don't ever call him. I know he's Henry, but they never call him Henry in the movie.
Right.
He's talking with his old pal Chuck Frankenstein. How you doing, Chuck Frankenstein? Bring back the dead. How you doing? And this is where he makes up his story about, oh yeah, I found her out in the woods. I don't. And he says, I'm going to set about to make her the most perfect woman in the world.
Yeah.
Which means
and
making her.
He's Henry Higgins.
Well, okay, so here's the thing that I read some of the like interviews with the people who worked on this movie and like the idea, and they kept talking about this is a feminist take, and I'm going like, no, they shoehorn it in.
Stands up a couple of times.
I was gonna say like
the end.
Yeah, I was gonna say like in the last maybe 15 to 20 minutes they kind of shoehorn in some feminist stuff, but I wouldn't say this movie is over. Now I don't know if you know this, but right now Scarlett Johansson is working on a new version of Bride of Frankenstein that is apparently setting out to be a modern-day feminist take on the story.
I heard that was in the works, but I heard that like a year or two ago. So that's one of those things where it's like, is it really going to happen?
Well,
or
I mean,
is it more just gobbledygook?
She is somebody who is, of course, attached.
She's got clout.
Yeah. And I guess that's sort of a passion project for her, so I don't know. But that's one of those things where you go like, well, that one actually made... I mean, the idea of a feminist take on Bride of Frankenstein could be something interesting. This is not that, though. Probably hurts that it's all men making it, but...
The proof that this movie gives us, as if we needed it, is that the Mary Shelley story, it really transcended almost immediately its own place in history because she gave us this thing that's rich, that can be interpreted so many ways, almost like Shakespeare. You can take those classics, and I'm not putting that work, which is a good book, but I'm not putting it up with Shakespeare, but you can bend that story in so many ways. It can be a philosophical discussion on God and man and that sort of thing. It can be a straight horror story. It can be all kinds of things. So this is one of those things where give me a take. I don't get offended. And like even with Dracula, they make him romantic. They make him this. Dracula can be bent in a lot of different ways as well. But even more so Frankenstein, because it had themes where Dracula didn't really have so many themes. So a feminist take on the Bride story, great.
Yeah. And
do it.
And I could see...
But make it better than this bullshit.
Oh, yeah,
because this is a Hallmark romance and a very boring one, which is proof that you can take that exact same story and turn it into a boring Hallmark Channel movie.
Oh yeah. This is not the first boring Frankenstein movie we've seen.
Oh no.
And it won't be the last, I have a feeling.
Oh dear.
Yeah, so let's see. Wants to make the most perfect woman. Okay, then it's the evening time, and he's sitting in front of his fire, and a fully nude Eva walks into the room. And by that, I mean Jennifer Beals' body double walks into the room.
Yeah, it's amazing. Well, I will say they found a very good body double simply because
unlike the
build
Flashdance,
is very
unlike
similar.
the Flashdance body double, where it's a completely different build.
Completely different build. Like, wow, that is a much more muscular woman.
Mm-hmm.
But here is very convincing. But it is funny because it's sort of like she walks out of shadow, but the shadow stops right around the neck.
Yeah.
So the head and the hair is still in shadow. It's just we're seeing everything else, and the doctor is also kind of like, I'm not taken aback. She is like a child. Yeah. She comes and she sits down next to his chair and crouches and asks him questions, weird. And he's like, yeah, you're an idiot, but I'll tell you some things.
I do like that it says, and as if we needed to say this in the trivia, that when a nude Eva walks into the living room with her face and top half blackened out, it was Jennifer Beals' body double. According to the I guess there is an audio commentary track for this movie. Director Frank Rodham said Jennifer Beals didn't want to do the nudity. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, early in her career, I think later she got better with nudity. She was on L Word for so many seasons, and I think she had sex scenes and things like that.
Maybe, yeah. I know. I can't say I've seen.
But early in her career, it was a thing for her, and I respect it. She was like, "Look, I know I'm the new pretty thing," and Flashdance, they wanted her to have some nudity, and she's like, "No, go ahead and get me a body double." And then her second movie, they're like, "There's a nude scene." She's like, "Get me a body double."
Yeah.
So she,
and also like, you don't even need this just doesn't need to be here. Like, I don't know.
Well, actually, I mean, okay, it's not me arguing for more nude scenes, but again, as far as the story goes, I like the idea of it pointing, they're slowly building her, or he's making her more civilized here. She's like a baby. Babies walk around naked all the time.
Let me say, maybe it needs to be shot differently then, or something.
Yeah, it's true.
The scene did feel weird to me. Because I see what you're saying, and I see what I think they're going for, but it is.
Well, they have her. They have her. It's a wide shot, but they have her walk into that beam of light.
Yeah.
And they have her stand there for a few seconds where it's sort of like you going, that is a vagina.
Yeah.
That is certainly some pubic hair.
Confirmed.
And she stands there for a while, then turns and walks. So it's like, there's that backside you wanted to see. It's like, you could have done it faster. You could have done it less leering. Maybe this was more leery than it should have been.
Yeah. It was a little leery. That was it, where I'm just going like,
I hope they paid her well.
Yeah, well,
but she sits there and she says some stuff, and he's talking to her, and then what's her name? Who's the house?
I don't know. I just kept calling her maid in my notes.
But it's played by the great Geraldine Page, and here's the thing: it's hilarious. Geraldine Page as Frankenstein's housekeeper.
Yeah,
she has like 2 scenes. She has a little bit of dialogue.
Mrs.
Same year,
Bauman is her character's name, apparently.
Mrs. Bauman. The same year she made this, she made A Trip to Bountiful and won the Academy Award. I'm like, what a year this lady had. She had this nothing part in The Bride. And then she makes A Trip to Bountiful and wins Best Actress.
Because she's a great actress. And this is completely does nothing with her.
Does
at all.
Nothing?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
She basically comes down and shames her, like, oh my God, this is so. I'm going to put some clothes on her immediately. It's like, that's okay. Just put a robe over her and get her dressed.
She does come in like, oh God.
It's like, oh, the shame. And it's like, she doesn't know. She doesn't know it's wrong. She's an innocent. Take care of her.
She's showing everything.
But it's too late because I've already seen everything.
Oh man, give me Patrick Stewart as Dr. Frankenstein.
It's a little late, but he would have torn that up.
I'm talking in this movie, 1985, Patrick Stewart as Dr. Frankenstein.
Give me Patrick Stewart as Dr. Frankenstein. Give me William Frakes as the creature. Jonathan Frakes.
as William T. Riker.
I was combining character and part, not the and actor.
Another one of my favorite trivia piece of IMDb trivia. He was called William T. Riker as a tribute to James T. Kirk. Oh, really? Thanks, IMDb trivia.
Hey, you're a snotty Star Trek fan. They're doing that for the people who don't know.
By the way, William Thomas Riker.
Yeah, not Tiberius.
No, Thomas. but still the T is there. All right. So yeah, oh yeah. Well, the question she asked him is, "Who is he and who is she? Who are you?
Oh, right.
And who am I?"
Yeah. Who are you? And he goes, well, I'm Baron Charles Frankenstein. And she's like, okay, got it.
Yeah.
And who am I? And he goes, nah, I don't even fucking know, but we're going to call you Eva.
After the first woman.
And he
God.
does he tell her yet that she was found in the woods, or is he do that later?
I think that's later. Look,
She wouldn't understand that at this
Brandon,
point.
I'm already asleep at this point in the movie.
I know.
Because we cut from this to our friend Ronaldo cooking a chicken and teaching our creature how to share.
Yep.
Riveting stuff, man. Riveting stuff.
It really is. But isn't this the scene where he gives him his name?
Well, yeah, he teaches him that they're friends.
And I think this is where he gives him his name.
No, that's later. I have that here.
That means they traveled for a good long while with him just not knowing what to call him.
Yeah, well, he goes, we share with each other and stuff. He goes, like friends. Yes, like friends. This is where he tells him his backstory, though, about, like, the woman I love hates me.
Right. And she screamed and he's like, oh, well, you just have to be persistent. That's a good message.
Yeah. By the way, the lessons taught in The Bride do not reflect those of Campbell and Jones Meet the Monsters. No means no, gentlemen.
Ronaldo turns it into some sort of self-helpy thing where he's like going, you can't give up on your dreams.
Yeah.
So if she's the woman of your dreams, you can't give up on it. And
truly horrific advice.
I would say that was wrong for a 16-year-old Brendan Jones to learn in the movie theater.
Oh, thanks, Bride. You've taught me everything I need to know. Yeah.
I know that you turned me down for the winter dance, but you will go with me to the prom. I just need to keep believing in my dreams.
Just like Ronaldo said.
Ronaldo said to Victor, he who wins.
I love the idea of somebody being so inspired by this movie to do anything. Then we cut to, and I was quite taken aback, we cut to Sting on horseback with a fucking sword in his hand. I thought, I mean, I'm like, is this what? And he's like leading a charge. All of a sudden he's Napoleon.
He and Clerval are on horseback. Both have swords brandished. You don't know why. And then Sting does do the forward with like the sword held out. And you're like, what are they fucking doing? And then it turns out to be a game.
Yeah.
Because they have a servant with a chicken, again, or a pheasant or something on a string and a rope. And so essentially the whole thing is like lancing. Like whoever gets to the end first and is able to successfully spear the chicken win.
Like everything in this movie, it's super lame.
It's super lame, and also you're sitting there going, what is the point? Because are we just spending day to day with these people?
he touches it with the sword and then it's just like, no, that's the end of that. And you're just going, okay, what? Like, yeah, I am just...
Yeah, what was the point?
Two rich jackasses playing soldier out in the yard. You know, you're just like,
yeah,
great. Once again, what an absolutely riveting film. I mean, this was when, and we're like maybe a half hour to 40 minutes into the movie, and it was about here where I'm like, oh God, there's going to be so much more of this, isn't there? This is really
where nothing happens. Where absolutely nothing happens.
I think this was actually about the time when I shut it off the first time, going like, well, pick it up later.
Good for you, my young friend.
My God,
my young Padawan.
Because I am,
you know, in a way, John, and I don't mean this in the wrong way. I think you're the Ronaldo to my Victor. And I think that fits. I only say that because I have lifted you onto my shoulder several times.
That's how we often travel about.
And I'm slightly taller than you. Slightly.
Yeah.
Like maybe an inch.
It's negligible, yeah. Yeah, okay, so...
And you're well better spoken than I am.
You know, a little bit, but... So, yeah,
Friend!
Friend! Share chicken!
We haven't shared chicken yet.
We'll
do it.
This is where
you know we're gonna share.
Yeah, this is where Henry is like, so have you talked to her about doing it?
Right. Yeah, he's like, why do you keep teaching her about science and the stars and
Yeah.
stuff like that when you should be teaching her about man and woman, right? As in doing it.
And this is where he's like, she's a child in her brain, Henry. She can't comprehend these kind of issues at the moment. How would I
just
even
realized
begin?
that Clerval is essentially the Quagmire of this movie.
Giggity, giggity, goo.
He
All
is
right.
indeed. All right.
He is. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Because he brings it up every single time.
It's Clerval, Clerval. Giggity, giggity, goo.
He's only here to basically say, yeah, you created life. She's beautiful, whatever. But are you doing her yet?
Yeah, it is just like, as your horny best friend, I just have to ask. Yeah, suddenly,
But actually, he doesn't know that he created her because he's kept that even from Clerval. Clerval
but even
starts
still,
putting it
she's
together
like
towards the end. What is she?
But to Clerval's knowledge, she's like a mentally damaged young girl, and still he's like, get to fucking.
Yeah, he's like, I know she's got amnesia. You got to remind her how all that shit works.
Yeah, she's got amnesia, but have you seen that bald? Shame not to put that to use.
What? She walked down the stairs naked and he didn't do anything? Giggity, giggity. That is essentially Clerval for this whole
Clerval
movie.
is that. I have a line here from him. Where was this that I pulled? The trouble with free women, Charles, is they're free to despise us. It's a risk I find unacceptable.
Okay, maybe
Fucking
there is a little
hell.
bit of feminist politics worked into this because all the men are terrible.
It's very obvious, and it comes and goes from the movie. That's the problem with it as a feminist film. It's like, if you're gonna make the feminist Bride of Frankenstein, like, make the movie about that. And by that, then Eva needs to firmly be the main character in that version, and instead she's really not. She's
no.
Even, I mean, at a certain point here, I think we lean way more into the creature and Ronaldo for long stretches of the movie, and then it just was kind of
the movie. All it is her riding a horse and flirting with Carrie Elways.
Yeah, and look, I love Carrie Elways, but man, he's got nothing to do here.
He has nothing to do here.
Yeah, this is a real.
But he looks pretty badass with a dueling scar.
He does, man. I mean, look, that guy just screams swashbuckler. I mean, that's why Princess Bride or Robin Hood.
He was born to do it.
Yeah, he's just great.
Did you catch that he does say is like,
yes,
if that is your wish?
He does say something to the effect of, what is it? I can't remember. It's damn close to as you wish.
Yeah, it's like, if that is your wish, or as you may wish. It's so close. It was like, oh! Boop, boop, boop.
So you request. It's something in that vein. I can't remember what it was, but I was like, what? Oh. Don't remind me of other better movies.
Yeah, really.
So meanwhile, the creature and Ronaldo have gone into this church, and this priest is going to kick them out, but they take his money. Is this right?
Yeah, this was a thieving plan of Ronaldo's, and of course, the people in the church, the priest has to be shown to be a total asshole, so you feel okay about robbing the church.
Whatever, man.
So what it is Victor has Ronaldo in a bag over his shoulder, and basically he needs to turn so the bag is up against the wall where the donation box is. So while Victor talks to the priest, he's like, what are you doing here? And he's like, I'm hungry. He's like, oh, well, any old person can just walk in off the street and say they're hungry and expect. So while Victor talks to the priest, we see the little knife, Ronaldo's little knife, cut a slit in the bag. Then his hand comes out and unlocks the box, steals the money from the donation box, and then they leave.
What scamps! Oh, these two!
They get up to so many hijinks.
They really don't, because they get to the circus. They get to their goal of the circus way too quick.
I know. They get to Budapest. It's like, well, that was a long walk, and here's that circus we've been.
This is one of those movies that every once in a while I have to say these, and I say it on here, but I say it more over on the action shelf, where I'm like, have you guys seen movies? Do you understand how, like, a film is paced and moves from scene to scene? Because there's so many things in where I'm just going, like, this is not how a movie functions.
No, It's all episodic,
Uh,
and episodic is not a curse word. It can be done well if there's something in those episodes.
well,
If
usually
it
there's some kind of
builds to
theme
something.
or something that ties them
Yes.
together too, right? Like, and I'm
Right.
okay with that. But also, usually those episodic movies I think of as like the films of Richard Linklater or something like that. Like
Well, sure.
small character stories where there aren't larger things going on, so it kind of can be more slice of life. A Frankenstein movie being episodic is trickier, is what I'll say, because it seems
Yeah.
like genre pieces are more plot based generally.
Also, anytime in these movies where the creature's, story is split off from the doctor or where, and we're following the creature, usually that's followed by paranoia, being hunted. People hate him and despise him just by looking at him. None of that here. They just walk.
The movie eventually gets there, but it's too little, too late.
Well, they get to the circus, and essentially Ronaldo, who is the talker of the two,
Oh yeah,
goes up to the head of the circus, is like, "I'm here. I am a very talented acrobat and a
and he
little
is,
person." He goes,
which we'll see. And the
Yeah,
guy's
and he
like,
goes,
"We
"We
don't
don't
need
need
no
any-
midget."
"We don't need another midget. We're good on midgets." He's like, "Well, but you need someone to pound steaks in, tent steaks, and my friend is stronger than anything." And then he shows the creature how to pound a steak in, and he does it. And the guy's like, "Well, fuck me." He goes, "All right, I'll pay you one wage. You can split it between you two."
It's about here where I am going like, my God, why do they think anyone wants to watch this? Like, by the time they're like, "Quick, creature, demonstrate you can pound a steak into the ground," I'm just going like, what audience do they imagine is going, "I can't wait to see that Frankenstein monster pound some steaks into the ground and do handiwork for a circus."
Yeah. Well, they knew
I
you wanted it, so they gave it to you.
Because it does seem like this isn't going to play to the prestige crowd, and it's going to not play to the monster crowd. So you're just going like, let's just, and that's what happened. No one saw it.
No one saw it.
Except
No
for
one cared.
16-year-old Brendan Jones saw it.
I did give them money. Whatever that very small box office
At
take
3.5 million, some of that was Brendan Jones's money.
was, that was me, because I went back about 28 times.
I gotta, maybe it's better on the 5th viewing.
God,
I couldn't handle that, man. I can't
I
imagine.
do not fall asleep in movies, and I don't walk out of movies.
Yeah.
But that means I subject myself. I was so bored.
No, I don't walk out of movies either, and I've had a couple where Gregoni was like, "Why didn't you just walk out?" I go, "Oh no, it's a contract with me in the movie. I'll turn movies off at home, but in a theater, once I pay that ticket, I'm in. They've got me."
Yeah, same here.
And so that's how you end up sitting through the entirety of Independence Day 2. That movie's awful. That is really wretched.
Never seen it.
Don't. It's horrible.
But there's more Judd Hirsch.
There's more Judge Hirsch there, and actually one of the big selling points to me was lots more Brent Spiner.
Nice.
Lots of Brent Spiner. I'm not sure that's a good. Not more Brent Spiner is a good thing. More of that character is not a good thing, though. Is what I'll say.
He was in perfect ratio in the first movie.
He's
because
great in the
every
first movie.
time he shows up in that first movie, he's a delightful change of energy and pace.
Mm-hmm.
But if you spend too much time with that guy, he's fucking irritating.
Also,
So,
Judd Hirsch doing like action sequences I did not need. Judd Hirsch in his fishing boat outrunning the tsunami caused by an alien ship is just like, what am I watching here? Oh boy, I sure gotta get this boat going real fast.
Well, it's nothing compared to the action on screen in The Bride. That's right, I veered us back.
Yeah, what action? Question mark.
We're letting our fans down. They want to hear about all the twists and turns of this plot.
Well, how about well, we do get, of course, the dwarf. The dwarf names him Victor here, and
He says, "Your name is Victor, and that means he who wins."
Yeah. And he goes, "Yeah, that seems to be." And then in the same scene, Victor takes his shirt off, and the dwarf sees how messed up his back as he goes, "Oh, you have been mistreated, my friend."
Yeah, the sympathy of Ronaldo. We love Ronaldo. And he says something like, "I didn't know a man could go through all this stuff." And he goes, "I'm not a man." And he goes, "Of course you are.
I'm a monster.
made of corpses.
And then it cuts back to Frankenstein and Eva riding horses. Who gives a fuck, man?
Yep.
I
Yeah.
just,
Their romance is blossoming every day.
yeah. Boy, oh boy,
He.
oh
Oh,
boy.
have we done the scene where he takes her to high society for the first time?
No, that hasn't come up yet. First, we got to get him taking her to the, well, they see a body being buried, and she
Oh, yeah,
somehow is like, oh, and he has to explain what death is to her.
Yes.
Great. We get some of that. What am I looking at here? Dwarf. Oh, okay. Oh yeah, so we get that.
The dwarf.
The dwarf. This is where the dwarf introduces the act he can do, where he's up on the trapeze.
Oh yeah, he's doing it as a showcase just for the owner
Right.
of the circus and his partner and lover, Bela.
Did we get lover out of this? I didn't get that.
It's a strong vibe.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I can see it there. It's classic, like, pseudo homosexual villain and henchman kind of relationship. You know, it's your Martin Landau and North by Northwest kind of thing.
Yeah.
My favorite possibly secret gay lovers are James Mason and Martin Landau in that movie.
James Mason.
James
loves
Mason.
him. He loves him some Martin Landau.
This is not
Wouldn't
now.
you
Not
love
now,
some
Martin.
Landau?
Not in front of Cary Grant.
Wouldn't you like to break off a piece of that?
Young Martin Landau.
All the brow you could ever want.
I love when he disguises himself as someone else on Mission Impossible. Masters of disguise. So yeah, and the whole bit is that he gets up there and he's pretending to flop around and get dizzy and fall, but then he's on a rope.
Yeah, he's on the trapeze and he does I shouldn't be up here so high and I'm nervous, and then he drops off the trapeze when we discover that I don't know why the crowd would never see it, but apparently he's had a rigged up harness.
I did think
so
the same thing. Wouldn't it be clear that this rope is running to his back? All right.
Yeah, so he falls off the trapeze, but the rope catches him, so he swings out right above the heads of the crowd.
Yeah.
And it's a great finish.
Yeah.
And they have to begrudgingly admit that's a pretty good act.
What did he say though?
also,
He goes, "I saw the same thing in Paris," and then it's like beep beep.
Yeah, they shit on.
Yeah,
him,
but nobody's getting around to Paris here, so I guess we can put it in the show.
Right. So they put it in the show. When it's done in the show, for some reason, I guess Ronaldo never explained this to.
I also thought that was weird.
Victor. Because Victor, who's basically not in the act, not in the circus, but cleans up and gets mocked by everybody. But he comes in during the act and he's like, Naldo. He's worried about him because he's up there going, I'm scared and I might fall. And he starts running around going, oh, Naldo, like I'll catch you kind of thing.
Victor, the only one convinced by Ronaldo's terrible acting.
Right. And then when Ronaldo falls and swings, he's like, oh, and then he catches Ronaldo and Ronaldo's like, smile and bow, like you're part of the act now. He's like, okay, duh.
And
then he does.
Let's do this every night.
Yeah, and then they have him dressed up as Ronaldo's mother.
And he starts doing lines like, my baby, where is my baby?
Like he now is an actor. He's been given a part to play, which for a young childlike person, he's like, oh, this is great. So he's like, no, someone catch my baby.
Can we talk about the fact that Batman the Animated Series did this storyline better with Killer Croc?
Yeah, it did.
That just hit me right now. I'm like, that's a really good episode of Batman. And it's
actually, every time Batman the Animated Series dealt with a circus or carnival, it was always better than anything you're seeing here.
True, yeah, because the Robin origin two-parter is also fantastic.
And also, oh crap, wasn't there another one that had the circus background? I don't know.
There might have been. Circuses are good on animated stuff.
Yeah.
So let's see here. They're falling with the rope, and he explains the death. Oh, the stormy night, and Eva is run off to this weird crypt thing, and she once again goes, I want to know who I am, and I want to go home. And he's like,
She runs to a crypt, and then Frankenstein finds her, and he's like, "You don't belong here." And she's like, "Where do I belong?" And she's holding a skull. She's like, "What is this?" And he goes, "I told you about bones and skulls." And she goes, "This was a person?"
oh.
Yep. This is all good stuff. Actually, I wouldn't mind this in a Frankenstein movie. It's just that
It's all that's in this Frankenstein movie.
like make it mean something and also give it some kind of
And also,
jazz.
should this be happening an hour and 10 into this movie too? My God, it is just excruciating. Let's see here.
Other than that, it's really good.
All right, now is where we get them going to meet the Countess in high society.
This is very much My Fair Lady. She has been taught enough to pass as a civilized
By God,
lady.
she's got it. I think she's got it.
I actually would love it if they had broken into that.
Yeah.
It would have been so good. Him and Clerval.
Clerval becomes the Pickering of it, is that? Yeah.
And where is that dosh gondit rain? In Spain.
On the
in
plains.
Spain.
On the plains.
We do not get that, but she looks gorgeous. Of
unfortunately.
course, everyone in this high society ball is struck by her, including Carrie Elwes'
and this
captain, army captain guy,
prime hunk Carrie Elwes. My God. He still looks great. He's still a very handsome.
He still
man.
looks great, but this is early days.
This is full on heartthrob Carrie Elwes. Good Lord.
A bump.
Yeah. Oh
and, the Countess, who never gets a name other than the Countess, is played by, this is a real 1960s throwback, but Verushka.
Yeah.
Who was she was a model, and she did some acting, but not a great actress. She just would have been a name for, people who knew the 60s. They go, wow, that's Verushka.
When they list the cast at the beginning of the movie, it's like Verushka, and it's like, huh?
Yeah. Well, she was one of those one-name people before it became
she
really
is
popular.
in the 2006 Casino Royale, apparently.
Oh.
I did not know this.
Me either. But so she's the Countess. She is amused by this gal. She has her sit next to her and is like, well, Charles, your ward is just fascinating. And Ava does a great job. She's talking high society nonsense. And then a cat shows up, and I need to talk about this. This was a missed opportunity. And this scene got mocked a lot, by the way, at the time. I think they even made fun of it on Saturday Night Live. They made fun of this scene.
As it should.
I know.
It's so goofy.
She sees a cat that comes up to her and just meows, and then she freaks out and hisses at it and scares it off. And everyone in the crowd at the party's like, she is a freak.
Yeah.
Except for Carrie Elwes kind of smiles like, I'm intrigued.
Oh, yeah. This doesn't turn Carrie Elwes off at all. He's all the way in. But then
again, I need to say again, Jennifer Beals.
Yeah, she's Jennifer Beals.
No one is turned off.
She's Jennifer Beals. He's 1985. Carrie Elwes 2 years out, by the way, from Princess Bride. That's 87.
Yeah, hard to imagine, again, either one she ended up with, whether it was Charles or this guy, the babies would have been insanely, they would have grown up to be perfect humans.
Yeah.
But so the thing is that is a missed opportunity. The whole thing should have been that animals, cats, dogs, should freak out at her.
Yes, that's
I
classic
love that
monster
in Frankenstein
movie.
Movies where they can tell that is a walking corpse and it freaks them out. So it should have been the cat losing its shit at her and her being confused and frightened.
100%. That makes all the sense in the world what you're pitching.
But we didn't get that. And later
instead
we have Charles getting why did you do that? That was embarrassing. She goes, you never told me about cats. I thought it might have been a miniature lion.
Oh, I hated that line so much. She knows what a lion is, but then that doesn't fit into the whole cat thing.
He's talking Shakespeare.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that, yes, you could be taught specific things to parrot back.
Yeah.
But she seems to have this understanding of what she's saying about the works of Shakespeare.
Well, the movie does not do a good job of showing the transition between infantile. Right. She pretty quickly is very adept and speaks well, and But
someone who can say, "Oh, I've always admired his comedies, his fantasies more than his histories," you're like, "Well, okay."
Then
but
sees a cat and is like, "What the fuck is that?"
Not a little lion. Jesus Christ. Jesus. It is an embarrassing scene, and I'm glad that
I feel so bad for Jennifer Beals. Yeah.
I'm glad her career survived.
Oh yeah, this movie easily could have been a career ender. There's no question about it. There's some embarrassing stuff in this movie.
Yes, sir. Yep.
So we get that whole sequence, which is dumb. The dwarf Ronaldo this is where he negotiates for him and the creature. Now that they're both on the show, they should be getting full pay. And yeah, you just have the imagine being like, I don't like him one bit.
And his assistant lover, Bela, goes, why? And then the guy actually says, it's in the script. Because there is no reason.
Right here. That page 114. See it. All right.
It's just plot convenience that out of all of his performers, he resents these two and doesn't want to pay them.
Who, by the way, are just asking for.
He pays everybody else.
They're just asking for base pay. They're not asking for more. They're not asking for a cut of anything. They would just like fair compensation for their work.
Yep.
And he's like,
God damn it! Increased, the take.
Because it's so weird that literally the scene before you see the packed rafters and he's like, yeah, and he's smiling like, this is going well.
Ronaldo, while being a smart guy, never openly insults this dude. There is no reason this guy hates Ronaldo.
These two are only a net positive for this circus. I can't understand. No, this made no sense. It's only so something can go wrong.
One thing I love, which we'll get to pretty quickly here, but it's like for 1 second, everyone in the circus is sympathetic towards Victor because of a loss he's about to have, and they are very sorry for him, and like a friend, they're comforting him. 5 minutes later, they're chasing with torches. So, Jesus Christ. It's basically just, what does the script need you to do right now?
It really is. It's so bad, man. It's so bad. We get Eloise riding up to Eva when she's out riding, and they get flirty. And Sting isn't having it.
Sting's getting jealous because Ava is indeed becoming more fully human and is liking a pretty dual-scarred army captain.
Yeah?
How dare she be attracted to a man that's not Sting?
I know, right? Then this is when she asks him, because Carrie always apparently told her a bunch of stuff about Frankenstein. She's like, well, how come you never go to that tower? And he said you got thrown out of university. Why did that happen? He's like, I didn't get thrown out. I left. Which is the ultimate, they didn't fire me. I quit.
Yep, that's good stuff.
I hate this Frankenstein so much.
He's not even take this job and shove it.
He's not
then even. They pointed out it's not a job.
We don't mind unlikable Frankenstein because we love complete asshole Peter Cushing. Asshole. But that guy is fun.
Dr. Frankenstein.
That's the fun rapist, Dr. Frankenstein. Well, this guy's a rapist too, but it's not as fun. No, I don't think he rapes anybody.
He rape her in it? He doesn't.
He's forcing himself on her when the monster busts in at the end.
Right. It just never gets to that point. It gets close.
It gets close to rape. And actually, to be fair, in the one we were having more fun with Cushing, I don't think he rapes anybody in that movie. He's just philandering in that.
Right. He does rape a woman in a later movie,
which he disagreed with, and we disagreed with as well.
Yeah,
that's not our fun evil Frankenstein.
No.
He
was just a man about the ladies.
Oh yeah,
in that first one.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know who would approve? The Clairval of this movie.
The Clairval would be like, Charles, why can't you be more like that one? Whatever relative of yours is that guy.
Yeah. Oh my. I don't think he was Victor in that either. He was something else, I think.
I don't know why he's never not Victor.
I
Though in the Universal ones, it was because it was his son, grandson, so on.
No, remember the original in the Universal was he was Henry.
He's not Victor in the
They
original.
they flopped him and Clariville's names because they felt Victor wasn't trustworthy enough of a name.
So he was Henry
which
Frankenstein.
is just hilarious.
Or Hank. He's Hank to his buddies.
Hank.
Frank.
This is
Hank.
This is
It's Hank the Frank.
This is Chuck. Hank. These are the Frankensteins.
These are the Frankensteins.
Meet the Frankensteins. Hank, Chuck, Larry.
You never know what kind of stuff they're gonna get up to. You don't know what corpses they're gonna be digging up.
Oh, you'll never guess what they dig up this week.
I want that show.
I want that show bad. Yeah, that's it. No, he is Victor Frankenstein in that. Never mind then.
No, he is Henry. Oh, you mean
Cushing was Victor. Yeah, no, he's Henry.
Hammer
Colin Clive is, but then he does assume different identities throughout that franchise.
He's Dr. Frank at the end. They set up the I've moved to a different town and now I'm Dr. Frank.
That still made me laugh. Come on, man. And then when he goes the next time, he's Dr. Stein. He just keeps.
I'm Dr. N.
Yeah, Dr. N. I'm running out of names here, people.
I'm Dr. whatever Frankenstein is backwards.
All right. So let's see. He's real cagey about all that. So then following the I don't like that dwarf. Well, guess what? The dwarf is doing his act, and wouldn't you know it, the rope has been cut, of course.
Yeah, so when 100% he flies off,
knew this was coming.
He doesn't bungee back. He, in fact, flies into the audience and gets severely wounded.
This does not kill him instantly, though, and I do like that he's like, don't ruin the show.
Yes.
Man,
he's like,
he performer.
Goes, take me out. And Victor does, crying, no.
By the way, you've told me this, Brendan. Should you be mortally wounded doing one of our shows, don't let it ruin the show.
Don't let it ruin the show. Drag me out so I can give you a medallion with Venice on it and all my gold.
Yeah, and he goes, get out of here. You have to leave. Chase your dreams.
Chase your dreams.
It's such a movie death. It's such a movie death.
It's such a movie death that even the great Rappaport could not pull that off.
No, because he's doing the whole thing and blood's trickling down out of his mouth. He's like, listen to me carefully. And he's going like, oh, God.
And this is where everyone in the circus, I mean, they've worked with him for a while. So, they come over and they're like, Victor, we're so sorry. They cover Ronaldo, he's still holding him. They cover him with a sheet.
Yeah.
And they're like, it's going to be okay. They're patting him on the shoulder. So a tragedy has occurred. And the same night, we also hear Ronaldo say the rope was cut.
Yeah,
like he knows.
Rope was
cut.
He
says that. Victor hears that. But anyway, so I guess they take the body away and the show finished.
Yeah.
And Victor's wandering around. Then he's outside the caravan of the owner and his lover, Bela.
Yeah.
And the owner is like, the circus owner is like, I told you to get rid of the dwarf. I didn't say anything about killing him.
Come on, man. What did you mean, though, when you said get rid of him?
Yeah, and then Bela's like, well, you don't have to deal with him anymore.
He's gone, isn't he?
Rope,
yeah, ever since Bela, cut that rope, hereby confessing.
Yes, and confessing conveniently with an earshot of Victor. Victor then freaks out and does some Frankenstein damage. Frankenstein monster damage, finally.
He pushes over this.
He pushes the entire wooden caravan over.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
I love strength, super strength. And then they scramble out.
Yeah.
He doesn't go after his justice is fair, I gotta say, because the owner did not demand the guy's death.
Correct.
So he doesn't kill the owner.
Yeah.
But he sees Bela and he chases after him and goes, Bela!
Yeah.
And he grabs him up
Mm-hmm.
and he tosses him there are these spiked fences in front of the lion cage. That makes sense. So you don't get too close to the lion cage.
Right.
So he throws him onto the spikes. It is pretty good because that guy gets pierced all the way down.
Dude, I mean, this is what the movie needed more of. This is a good Frankenstein scene. Like, yeah, great, awesome, yeah.
So he does that, and Bale is dead and bleeding through every part of his body.
And then we get the classic, and it's very Hammer, it's very anything of this era. The manager of the circus going, murderer!
Yeah, the manager of the circus who should have said, well, I guess that's an eye for an eye. Instead, he goes, murderer! And the same people who had just been comforting Ronaldo. Comforting Victor.
Yeah. I'm like, well, get him!
Get him. They rush. And why didn't Victor say something even in his broken English? He could have said, like, he killed Ronaldo.
Nope.
I heard it.
He runs off, and I'm like,
he runs off.
Here we go. Here we go. Angry mob.
But Angry Mob doesn't catch him.
No.
And he gets away.
Yeah.
And he's going to follow his dream, just like Ronaldo told him.
Yeah. Well, luckily he'll get to the Frankenstein estate pretty quick. Because literally the next scene is Eva walking through the woods.
We should say, I'm jumping back. Sorry, jumping back real quick.
Yeah.
They keep these small references to the connection of him and the bride. Right. So when Ronaldo dies and the creature's like, in pain and sorrow, we see Ava wake up in bed like, and she's crying and she doesn't know why.
Right. I forgot about all that stuff because it really goes nowhere.
Yeah, then we do it a few times. It's like the horse thing where it's like, I want to ride a horse, and then and she's riding a horse, and it's just that's it.
Anyway, though, she just stumbles upon him here in the woods. Is like, who are you?
I know. So apparently the circus must have been close to the Frankenstein estate.
I mean, for all we know, this is the next
week or two.
Yeah, for all we know, this is either the next day or 2 months later. I don't know.
Yeah, the creature, Victor, is just asleep out in the grounds of the Frankenstein estate under a tree. And there's Eva with her horse, and she's being very nice. Like, who are you? And he's like, I'm Victor. And she's like, do you have anywhere else to stay? He's like, no. And she's like, well, here's some gold.
Here you go. Yeah, take that. At least for good luck.
A gold piece. Yeah, at least for good luck, because he's reluctant to take charity from her. And their hands touch when she passes it to him. She goes, do I know you? And he's like, no. He's about to say, yeah, but he's like, no, you don't know me.
But he gives her
a hideous monster.
Yeah. That got real Peter Boyle Frankenstein monster there.
It did.
Hideous monster.
Man, this movie needed all of them. It needed it needed Victor March. It needed, is that his name? As the Burgermeister? No, as the
it's
sheriff. That's his name, right?
Victor. No. It's
no, not March. Not Victor March. Victor. Damn it.
Young Frank. Yeah. It's God damn it. Now I.
Sorry, because you did Peter Boyle. I was about to go to Cloris Leachman, and it needs all of them. But what's his name?
He's so good in that. And we didn't do that because it was too much of a parody, unfortunately.
Yeah. We will always say
Kenneth Mars.
What?
Kenneth Mars.
Kenneth Mars.
The great Kenneth Mars, also from the producer.
I almost said Victor French. Physically, they looked a lot alike.
Yeah, sure.
But Kenneth Mars, great comedic talent.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is,
we could have used a song in this. When you're blue, when you don't know.
We have said many a time that Young Frankenstein is one of the best Frankenstein films.
It might honestly go Bride of Frankenstein, Frankenstein, Young Frankenstein. Honestly, it might be
Young Frankenstein is a parody, and yet it gets so much of it right.
Yeah.
And it looks great. And talk about pacing. That thing moves like a freight train.
That thing moves. That's the thing, though. It's a good Frankenstein story amongst all the comedy.
Yep.
Like, that's the thing that really works about it. This doesn't.
Nope.
But he gives her something, right?
Well, in exchange, she gave him a gold piece. So then he gives her the Venice medallion.
That's what it is.
Ronaldo gave him.
And then she brings that back to the Frankenstein manor. And, oh, my God, old Chuck Frankenstein is just like, what the fuck is this trash?
Well, first, he's like, where were you?
Yeah.
And she's like, I was out on the horse. And he goes, were you out with the army guy? What's his name? Were you out with the pretty boy? And she goes, no, I met a man,
I
and he's wandering through the
I
thing.
really don't know what
And-
Sting saw in this part, because so much, especially down the stretch, so much is like, where were you? Who are you with? I'm so jealous. Like, it's just going like, there's nothing interesting or cool to play in this part.
Suddenly, he is just a jealous guy. And she's like, oh, he was a
And
wanderer.
also, where is our dinner?
And he gave me this, and he looks at the medallion, and he's like, oh, this is a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Hope you enjoy this gift you got from that guy, this piece of shit.
It is almost just like, oh, good, I don't have to worry about this. He's clearly some poor out there.
Yeah.
And she don't F with porsies. What was that?
Again, the dialogue really occasionally jumps far forward. It's amazing.
Oh, it's that's a Mona Lisa line from Parks and Rec. When they finally need to get her away from Tom, and he just says he's broke, she goes, "Ew, I don't F with porsies."
The great Jenny Slate, ladies and gentlemen. The great
she's amazing.
Jenny Slate.
We could have used some of that kind of energy too, man. Give me
We could
Jenny
use
Slate
Jenny
as the
energy.
Bride of Frankenstein. Now we're talking.
Oh, actually, that would be great.
She'd be fun. So let's see here. So then Victor takes that gold, and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go buy something pretty for my gal." And he goes to some.
Apparently, even though that reunion was awkward,
Yeah.
and he was seemingly ashamed of who he was, he hasn't given up on his dream. He thinks that now what he really needs to do is get her a really nice gift.
Yeah. That was all he had on him. Now so he goes to a jewel dealer who's just out in the middle of the woods.
It's a traveling merchant who
Yeah.
has a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
So he wakes him up, and the guy freaks out because it's Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah.
Even though he's looking better,
He's
because
looking
they
quite a
have
bit better.
been,
Yeah.
doing the healing.
And
of his
no
makeup.
offense to the man, but he's looking quite a bit better, but he still looks like Clancy Brown. And Clancy
Yeah,
Brown
who
is a little
looks-
startling on his own.
Yeah, a monolithic man in the
Yeah.
best way.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we're talking about the
Um,
Kurgan, man.
If you want to see him at his most handsome and normal, I guess it would be as Rawhide in Buckaroo Banzai.
Yes, I think that's true. Because, yeah, once
Because
again.
he's also got like longer hair, and he's got kind of a hip beard.
I was just
mustache
the other week I was watching the 80s Sidney Poitier action movie Shoot to Kill, if you recall
Oh.
that movie.
I don't.
oh.
And he's in that.
He's the psychotic killer that Sidney Poitier and Tom Berenger have to chase into the woods. It's pretty
But
good.
did they make him look weird in that?
No,
like, sweaty or creepy
No,
or
he
something?
looks like Clancy Brown, and that's threatening enough. And he's got Tom
that's
Berenger's girlfriend, who's Kirstie Alley. It's a pretty good little thriller from like the mid '80s, you know.
Okay, all right.
Shoot to Kill.
But we're huge Clancy Brown fans.
Love Clancy
There's
Brown.
nothing that man
Like I
will
said,
ever do that embarrasses him in our eyes.
Being a huge Highlander fan as a kid, he is the Kurgan.
He's also the best Lex Luthor we've ever had.
His Lex Luthor is amazing. What a great.
If you had shaved his head,
He could have done it.
he could have done the live action. He would have been
100%.
an imposing,
Yeah.
like, because he's very tall. You would have
Yeah.
had to have someone of a Christopher Reeve status.
He was
to even
just
stand
really
next to
good
the guy.
and still terrifying in the Dexter revival, where he was the villain
Oh,
in that
yes.
recently. Very scary in that. Still doing it. Man.
He is an intimidating guy, but he's also very funny, as we've seen before.
I mean,
we
he's
love
the
Clancy
voice,
Brown.
He's also the voice of Mr. Crab on
Also,
SpongeBob. You know.
Clancy,
Yeah.
call us.
Yeah. Come on the show, man.
Oh, I'd love to talk. to
Yeah,
Clancy
me
Brown.
too. He'd be a dream guest. Let's see. So he goes to buy the jewelry. I like that the guy. He's like, how much?
Well, the thing
for it?"
is that what he gets is the guy is sort of like a traveler,
Mhm.
and he is in sort of his caravan with all kinds of stuff, and he knows this guy's a mark. He
Yeah.
knows this guy's pretty dumb, and that he has a lot of gold, and he says, well, here's a nice piece, and it's just colored glass necklace,
Right.
which of course looks very cheap. And he goes, and Victor goes, how much? He goes, well, how much do you have?
Yeah.
And Victor shows him all the gold. He goes, well, that ought about do it.
Yeah.
All the gold, and the guy and Victor happily walks off with a cheap looking colored glass necklace. Then the merchant feels bad, like, I took him for a sucker. So he calls him back, and he keeps one of the gold pieces,
Yeah.
gives the other back, the other stack, and
Yeah.
he goes, this'll cover it.
Yeah.
And Victor goes, whatever, thanks, bye.
I will let you keep it all. I don't care. I don't even understand how money works.
That's pretty much it. But that means that the merchant guy had a heart.
Yeah. I actually, that if the movie was any better, I would say that's something I like, because I do like when there are little character beats for side characters in movies.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
But it's just, at this point, I'm so checked out of this movie.
No, you should be.
Because then he goes and he climbs up the wall to Eva's room and
to stalk and look at her.
And this makes no sense to me. The idea that he somehow recognizes that the diamond necklace that he's Victor, that Frankenstein, that Chuck Frankenstein gave her, is somehow more valuable. Really, I don't understand how he knows that.
Here's the thing that's really confusing. What he sees, and we know that that's a diamond necklace that Chuck Frankenstein gave her.
Right.
But the creature only sees the maid woman, the housekeeper, dressing Ava for the big costume ball, and then putting the necklace on her. Yeah. So to the creature, to Victor, he doesn't even know that's something a rival gave her. True. So it would make more sense if it was Chuck putting that necklace on Ava. Then he'd go, "What I have is shit. What he gave her is better."
But we also have to go, that doesn't make sense. None of this makes sense.
We have to understand, somehow he didn't know that the colored glass was cheap, but he somehow instinctively knows that diamonds are better. What?
Yeah, I don't.
So anyway, he's like, my gift is shit. And he goes to the river and he throws the glass necklace into the river.
Yeah. Oh, man. But this leads us to yet another swanky ball.
But this is a full-on ball, a costume ball.
Oh, my God. How about this thing where they wheel out this snow globe and it's got glitter in it, then glitter starts raining from the...
And suddenly we are in an early MTV video.
Yeah.
This whole costume ball sequence reminded me of the music videos for Total Eclipse of the Heart.
Sure.
And also Meatloaf's I Would Do Anything for Love, but I Wouldn't Do That. Which was very gothic.
We finally have an answer to what he wouldn't do, and that's get the COVID vaccine. Hey now!
Yeah. Oh, hey
out.
Now!
Uh-oh.
I would do anything for love. Will you take the COVID vaccine? But I won't do that.
Yeah. That actually, they took that out. He was ahead of his time on that. That was the original lyrics.
Oh,
will you take the COVID vaccine?
I won't
do that. Yeah,
it was COVID-3 back then.
Yeah.
No,
but I won't do that.
He decided not to do that, and R.I.P. Meatloaf.
Yeah.
But yes, he shows Eva this snow globe, and it has glitter inside. Golden glitter, looks awesome. And then right on cue, they dump gold glitter from the ceiling, and all the guests are like, "That's amazing!" And they continue to drink their champagne in open glasses that are now full of tiny flecks of glass. Because that's what glitter is, folks. So they're drinking glitter-filled champagne.
Yep. And I'm just going, what is the point of any of this? This is where it does get needlessly stylistic. Something I've been wanting the movie to be more stylized. Now it does late in the game, and I don't follow what the hell is going on here. So,
but all this sets up is, again, it's a fancy ball. Eva looks amazing, and at one point, Chuck can't find her. He looks in the back rooms where there are people flirting and making out, and then he finds Eva laid back on like an ottoman kind of thing, and Carrie Elways. He's not even doing anything yet.
He's kissing her
hand.
Yeah. And that's enough to...
Charles is like, he smacks the guy.
The
like,
fuck you doing?
Get off her.
Yeah, get your stinking hands off of her.
And I love this. He says, put your clothes back on. And she has at most had 2 buttons unbuttoned at the top. Yeah. And she's like, okay.
I see the beginning of her clavicle.
Yeah. Well, actually, probably time... period. They're like, oh my God, I saw so much clavicle last night.
I saw near almost the beginning of boobs.
I saw an ankle last night. That's going in the spank bank. Sorry, I said spank bank on this podcast.
Yeah, you've been
warned.
Mom,
if you're listening, before. Turn it off.
Yeah.
The language is only going to get worse from here.
Your mom would have already been horrified by the many other episodes we've done of this show.
I love the idea of my 80-year-old mother actually going, I wonder which movie they're talking about this week. They're talking about The Bride.
Yeah.
I probably drove him to see that. She probably did, because I didn't have my driver's license.
Bob, we're going to see The Bride.
And I can't imagine I went with friends. To tell you the truth, I think The Bride I saw alone. I don't think I had friends that were like, dude, are you kidding me? A movie with Sting and Jennifer Beals about...
Don't you want to go see this Frankenstein movie?
Oh. It was that or Temple of Doom. No, I don't know. I'm probably... What is the years there?
This is 85. And I want to say Indiana Jones maybe in the year before this, the Temple of Doom.
Yeah, I think we're between Temple of Doom.
Yeah, 84 is it's 84 is Temple of Doom, and 89 is Last Crusade. So.
Yeah, we're between the two.
Yeah, we're between Jones' adventures at this point.
I always took that
what were
personal.
the big movies of 1985 though? That's the real question.
I would love to know what was in the theater when this was out.
Okay, well, let's see what you have here. When did this come out? When was the actual
Don't
release?
Worry, folks. We'll edit out the search. We're not editing out anything.
We don't
and
cut
we don't
anything
have
on
any Googling music to play while you Google.
What else
on his own an adventure, trying to find out what was playing.
Okay, I gotta get the
same
so
time
it's
as
85.
Bride.
So this
Let's
was
see.
August 16th, 1985.
Right before my brother's birthday.
August 1985.
Man, I wonder if I
movies.
went to see this with my brother. Probably not.
Ooh.
It was out in August of 85.
August 1985 movies. Here we go. Here's what else you could have seen.
Yep.
You could have seen Paul Verhoeven's Flesh and Blood.
I could not have. That was rated R.
Oh, isn't this rated R?
Was this rated R? That was PG. It was one of those PG movies with boobs.
Yeah, because I just assumed because of the
or maybe PG-13.
Oh, this was PG-13. It was PG-13. Okay, that makes
There you
sense. You could have seen Michael Dudikoff in American Ninja, although once again probably rated R.
I don't think that actually played in my local theater.
I would assume. Oh, you could have seen Teen Wolf.
I did see Teen Wolf.
Yeah, Teen Wolf was
in the
out.
Theater. Man, what a month I had.
Opening the same, because those are around this time, opening the same day as The Bride, American Flyers.
Oh, I wouldn't have had any interest. I did see that movie eventually.
John Candy in Summer Rental.
I saw that in the theater.
Oh, one of my favorites, Real Genius with Val Kilmer.
I saw that in the theater, and that is a great movie.
Fright Night. Fright Night is out around this time.
Saw that in the theater. That was rated R, wasn't it? Did I
yes.
sneak? No, it wasn't rated R.
No, Fright Night, I believe, is rated R.
Well, then I snuck in.
Weird Science is also out in theaters at this time.
I saw Weird Science in the theaters.
So you saw all this stuff then. Never mind.
I was at the movies a lot.
Yeah, I get that
And
sense. Yeah, those were the movies that were out during. Those were your other options for this. Those were.
In other words, there were much more entertaining
Oh,
options.
you could have seen Tom Hanks in The Volunteers.
I did not see The Volunteers. I liked Tom Hanks, but that one did not look good.
That one is not good, so that makes sense. Oh, Michael Cimino's Year of the Dragon also came out. Which is
I did not go see Year of the Dragon.
See, that's my shit, man. That's gritty police drama right there with Mickey Rourke.
Yeah.
Anyway, weren't a big Cimino fan as a teenager.
No, I wasn't like just waiting for the next Cimino hit.
For the director of The Deer Hunter. It's better than Heaven's Gate. Actually, I do like Heaven's Gate though.
Heaven's Gate is a beautiful movie. It is also very boring.
It is that, but it is.
Speaking of boring,
yeah. Let's get to the rest of this movie.
We're almost done. We're so close.
Oh yeah, he goes to Eloise, he goes, "I'll kill you for this." And Eloise goes, "Well, pick the time and I'll bring the weapons, pal." And we never get this duel, which is really what I want, though.
I know. And it's great because you have the young army captain sitting there going, "Yeah, you pick the weapons because I've been trained in all of them."
Yeah, I mean, Eloise would murder the shit out of him in that duel, right? Like, let's be honest. This guy's pretending to lead an army on his horse, and
Yeah.
Come on. Meanwhile, Carrie Elwes is actually trained to kill people. So, and we know this because he's a damn good swordsman in The Princess Bride 2 years later. No.
He is perhaps the best swordsman of all.
Well, it's either him or Inigo Montoya. I don't know.
That's fortunate since I've been using the wrong hand. I'm actually
Talk
right
about one of my favorite sword fights in film history is that sword
It's
fight.
just one of the best.
Yeah.
It's just one of the best.
It really is. And that movie is just wonderful. I don't think
Oh,
people need us to sing the praises of, because that is an unquestioned classic.
I love it when sometimes we will actually bring up obscure things and sort of promote them, but then every now and then it's like, guys, if you haven't seen The Princess Bride, and the entire world just rises up and goes, "Seen it?
Yeah, it's
Agreed.
one of
We
the
love
most popular and beloved movies of all time.
I don't know if you've seen this little thing called Star Wars Episode 4: A New Hope.
Yeah,
but I really recommend it.
It's pretty good. They made other episodes. I got to check these out.
Yeah. You are gonna love the other 8 chapters.
Yeah. Tell me, are they all good? No.
But anyway, so so there's the setup for a duel that never happens.
No,
but
to the point of nothing comes of any of this. Really, nothing comes of Carrie Elway's.
Just jealous, wants her for himself.
Doesn't he just disappear from this movie at this point?
I think so. I don't think we ever see him again.
You just go like, well, what was the point of any of this?
And
Just
this is around the point where Ava is angry enough to start doing some back talking and saying, "I get to choose." And even
I have a line from her here, because later, it's a little bit later. So
she eventually, I can't remember how does she come? She finds a way into the library, the tower, and reads the diary and knows that she's been stitched together from corpses.
He tells her that in a rage is how she finds out. He's like,
right.
Because
she goes, "You don't own me. You didn't make me." And he goes, "As a matter of fact, I did."
That's right. I stitched you together, baby.
And then he does Bond villain monologue, and this is where tells her what's what.
This is where I have her line, though, which I guess is part of the whole feminist message of the movie that they suddenly very much want to have in this movie. He goes, here's what she says: "You can do what you like. You can take apart the body you put together. You can take away the life you gave me, but you cannot have me. Not ever. Not even if you murder me and raise me up 1,000 times. You cannot have me."
That's pretty definitive, I gotta say.
Yeah. It's pretty bad dialogue, though, really.
It's pretty bad dialogue, and again,
all of a sudden we're getting very feminist out of nowhere. I mean, once again, though, the movie is so episodic and scattershot that when it tries to bring the themes in for a landing down the stretch here, you're like,
well, they feel blunt because it hasn't been built. It does just get plugged in.
Like when she shouted that, I went, "Oh, is that what this movie's about?"
Yeah. We haven't been following a thread. It's just something that's dropped in our lap.
Like I said, if you want to land this, she really needs to be the focal character of the movie. And she really isn't. She's out of the movie for, she's a non-entity for a good first half of the film, probably.
No one is the focal point of this movie because it's doing and speaking of Star Wars, it's a problem with Phantom Menace, which is they never decided who that movie's about.
No, Phantom Menace has no protagonist.
You are following multiple storylines, and so therefore they all suffer because none of them have the needed weight for you to watch for 2 hours.
Because I think if
it had just been about the creature, who then circles back around to Frankenstein and the bride, surprised to find her all, Eliza Doolittle'd up and all that stuff. Sure, then it's been his story. Yeah. But if you want it to be the bride, then she should be the lead character.
I tell you, I mean, and look, I'm always trying to make better movies on this show, Brennan.
Do not spend any time trying to think of a better bride.
Well, no, what I'm saying, though, is a more interesting thing would have been don't separate the monster, and then you can also have not only this thing about we're both in love with this creation, but also she's now the new favorite creation. He's being pushed into the background because he's the less perfect version, and there's emotional things to play there that would give the monster and then it would. I mean, I think the movie needs to be more focused on really making about these 3 characters, and instead it's all over the place to the point where I don't really know what the deal with any of them is, as you're saying. Anyway, just write Frankenstein.
You sound tired, John. Do you need to take a nap?
Frankenstein getting pissy just says what
Can
my
I
next
suggest
note
you
is.
start The Bride again?
Hang on, I actually bought this movie just as a sleep. No, I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't buy it.
You only rented.
I only rented. I think my rental window has already run out because I took so long to watch it.
Sting just got another nickel.
Yeah. Oh God, somebody's watching The Bride. He has to know this is shit, right? I don't think
Oh,
he
yeah.
has to know this was garbage.
Yes.
Because I don't see that he immediately then took a bunch of other leading roles following this. I think he took a second to go,
Well, I mean, his music career never slowed down. It never
no,
really hit any real rough
no.
patches unless he decided he wanted to take a break. So it's not like he needed to. And I also
No.
think that people stopped offering because there's one thing about being a very attractive leading man, but you still need to be able to bring it.
He had another
And
movie out this year,
never
I
had
thought.
the chops. He doesn't even have the chops that David Bowie has.
No.
David Bowie could actually act, and
I
he
know.
should have been in more.
Watching The Hunger in particular, when we were watching that, I was going, why can't he? Why wasn't he in more stuff?
Yeah,
Because I really
but
like. I mean, he was the
again,
best part of
there's
that movie.
no shame on Sting. He was like, "Why not? I'm going to give this a
He
try."
put out.
And
He did. He is in a movie in 1987 called Julia and Julia with Kathleen
yep,
Turner.
yep.
I can't say I've ever seen this.
It's a romantic drama.
Well, I see here it's a very sexy Sting on the poster for it.
I don't think he had a choice on that. I think that's just genetics.
No, but he's got his shirt off and he's cradling Kathleen Turner and he's
No,
showing
that's
off his
also
biceps.
genetic.
Like,
He's
"Look at
unable
this."
to wear shirts.
Yeah, they just
Um,
pop right off. I did see Stormy Monday. I know that movie from '88.
Stormy Monday with Sigourney Weaver, right?
Melanie Griffith, Tommy Lee
Oh,
Jones,
no, Melanie Griffith. Sorry.
and Sean Bean. This is like a gangster
Oh,
movie.
oh yeah, Sean Bean.
It's a
And does
Mike
he die in
Figgis
that
film.
one?
I think he does. A lot of people do though. It's once again it's a gangster film, but written and directed by Mike Figgis, who I do enjoy his work.
No one doesn't like a Figgis.
Figgis is good, man. Oh, and of course, then his next acting gig is where he voiced himself on that very funny episode of The Simpsons. That's entirely a parody of Ace in the Hole.
Yep.
That's how
We're sending our love down the well.
Sunday I Love Down the Well. He's very funny in that. He can be funny, like we talked about. He was very good on Only Murders in the Building.
Got a sense of humor.
Yeah.
It's just that, like a lot of people, sometimes you're distractingly beautiful to the point where they don't want you to be funny. They don't want you to be a character actor. We talk about that with Brad Pitt and George Clooney. These are character actors that are cursed with physical beauty.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
It's like, we want you to do another boring romantic lead. I'd rather not. Can
I was
do a
just
weird character?
watching one of my favorite Brad Pitt movies that is very underseen and underrated, which is the movie Killing Them Softly.
Oh, Killing Them Softly.
And
sure.
he's a total weirdo character in that, and I'm going like, God damn, you're good, man. You're so good.
So good.
And he's
That
always
stuff.
going like, can I get weird hair or a beard or something to like distract from this whole
Can
thing?
I have a tick or a twitch? Because
Yeah.
I know the fuck out of that.
Yeah, I remember seeing 12 Monkeys was the first
Yeah.
one where I was like, shit.
12 Monkeys is the
he's
first one where I was
really
like, oh my
good.
god, he's an actor.
Yeah, he's really good in that. Because as much as I can enjoy something like A River Runs Through It, oh, he's smoldering in that, or Legends of the Fall.
Legends of the Fall, are you kidding me?
Smolders.
Golden God.
He just smolders. He can't help it. He can't help it. All right,
Yeah.
so for somehow the circus people have come into town now,
Sure.
and they're whipping up the townsfolk to grab torches and go get this guy.
Yeah.
And it's so now he's running around this town, and I'm just going like, oh, this is where I'm going like, please, movie, end. Why can't you end? Why do we need
He's
to get
hiding. He's hiding from them. Like, oh, what am I going to be able to do?
We do get, because we're contractually obligated, it seems like, to put a blind guy in a Frankenstein movie. We get this blind guy who feels his face and goes, oh, he's over here!
It's the trivia on IMDb. There's not a lot of great stuff. It
I
just
did
goes,
see that, yeah.
The blind man in this film was played by an actual blind man.
I did see that.
Wow,
And they're just
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Thanks. Because
And
it
also-
really brought something to the role.
Yeah, and it really brought something to this absolutely nothing part. It really doesn't matter one bit.
Yep, he calls him out, and again, they're like, oh, there he is, get him.
And they do get him, and they lock him up in a scene very reminiscent of Bride of Frankenstein, where he's chained up.
He's chained up in some sort of dungeony cell. And
all
at
I
the same
all I
time,
could think was, it's just going to make this movie longer.
at the same time, things are not happy at the Frankenstein place.
No, he's
This is where a rape is almost about to happen.
yeah, and maybe the monster can sense this because it gives him the strength to break out of his cuffs.
This is another one of those things where she, at the peak of her at screaming, like, no, like, she's struggling.
Yeah.
It cuts to the creature. He's like, no. And then he's got the strength to pull those chains out.
Yeah. And so he and somehow manages to traverse the entirety of this town to wherever Frankenstein is.
Without them finding him or noticing that he bashed out of it.
No, the townsfolk never come back into play in this story.
They went to, I guess when they go to sleep, they go to sleep. Like they're heavy sleepers.
What is the point of any of this? Oh my God,
nothing.
It's just more stuff to happen. So
but
yeah,
he has broken out. He makes it to the Frankenstein place and busts in to stop that rape from happening, which means really that was a quick trip.
It was, man. He got some Speed Force powers here to get across
and
town.
Then I do kind of like Sting here. He just goes, you're dead. He's like, no. And he goes, well, perfect. I'm glad you're here. It is kind of like, oh, well, of course you would show up now.
Sting is now in full on villain mode because he grabs a stick from the fire or whatever, and he goes, "You never did like fire, did you?"
Yeah, and sets the creature.
And I go once again. I'm going. Oh,
fire.
I wanted this movie that has that tone, which is a very that's
right
such a like
near
comic
the
book
end-
villain rivalry thing where it's like, I believe your only weakness is fire, Mister. Whatever, right, Mister
Right
Bond.
here in the last 5 minutes, it tries to regain the energy from the first 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm like, wow, the sandwich had some good bread, but it was very thin, and everything in between was awful. It was tasteless, gross stuff. It was tofu with some good bread.
Yeah.
And so, here it does become kind of what you want, and at least there's action because they're fighting over her, and she's like, she's not really helping much, I gotta say. I don't remember. She's just kind of
once again,
going, no,
for the feminist Bride of Frankenstein movie, she has no involvement in this third act battle.
No, so basically
they end up back out on the broken down tower and they're battling out there. And I'm going, once again though, I'm so burnt out by the movie that I'm going like, oh, I guess this is kind of what I would want the end of a Frankenstein movie to be like.
Yeah, it's just about waving the fire at the creature and the creature trying to get some jabs in, and then they're on like the balcony.
We don't even. I really want him to
grabs.
I want him to grab a gun and shoot him, and it doesn't do anything or anything, man. Because I did think when he throws him off the tower and kills him, I thought, oh, well, that fight ended faster than I would have wanted it to.
It really does. It's very quick. He tosses him off the tower. Then you see bloody Sting on the ground. He's dead.
He's dead. We really linger on that. They're like, folks, Sting is dead. Sting is dead. It's okay. It's over now. And
guess what, guys? I think the creature and the bride, who do have some lines together, it's just all about...
Yeah.
She's like, oh, I'm so glad that you survived and we have this bond and there's so much I want to tell you about. She's going to kind of be his instructor. Ooh. And she goes, the world is so big. I can't wait to show it to you.
Cut to this like sun going down shot of a boat on water as credits roll.
Totally confusing because they keep the line of like Ronaldo wanted to go to Venice. He had the Venice thing, the medallion, and at the end they show us sun-dappled sea with a ship on it. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's a ship. But then they sort of superimpose a gondola from Venice going across the same screen as if to go, get it?
Yeah.
And I'm like, look, either they're in Venice or they're on a ship. They can't be doing both. And if they're in Venice, they should be in that gondola, and they're not. We don't even know if they're on the ship. We don't know what the fuck's going on.
Nope.
It's just the indication that they traveled. They are now together. They're probably doing it left and right.
Oh, yeah. He says, let's go to Venice, baby.
Which it was a euphemism back in the 19th century.
I'm taking you to Venice, baby.
Venice, baby. And we're going to be in Venice all night long.
Oh, God. This movie's terrible. This movie is terrible.
Told you, man. But we couldn't avoid it.
I never doubted it. I just, once again, I always said, I've never seen it. And
yeah, you were expecting the worst and hoping for the best.
Yeah, and it was... Like I said, it had me for about 15 minutes. I thought, well, maybe this will be... Oh, no. And I did think I like all these actors. Maybe it'll be... No. I thought... I was hoping it was going to be maybe kind of boring, but watchable. And instead, it's a tough sit, man. It is really... It's
Nothing happens. There are
so.
no stakes. There are no peaks and valleys. It is
No.
a line movie.
No, I mean,
It's a
I think the
line.
best example of that is, I will kill you, Caroways. Fine, let me get my weapons, and then they don't fight. Like, what? You can't do that in a movie. That's not okay.
I would have had Ronaldo die a lot earlier, just so that the creature could then become a rampaging creature too.
Yeah, man, that's what I really want.
A little bit of that fear.
Didn't you want? I mean, I want him to kill more people at the circus. Like, once the people turned on him, have him start tearing arms off or something. I don't know. I don't know. It's just so weird. He never really gets to be a monster. He's just kind of this sad sack dude.
I know that's the point, is that this is an innocent child creature, and they do that.
Yeah, but that's just not exciting to watch. But even still, Karloff had shades of the innocent child, you know? We've seen the innocent child still be exciting on film, though, you know? And this movie sucks. Don't watch it.
Don't watch The Bride.
Luckily, though, next week we are in for an all-time classic.
The Howling 3!
No, that's 2 weeks from now. The Howling 3 is on its way, though. No, next week we're heading to Santa Clara, California, and we're gonna meet some Lost Boys.
It's one of my faves.
It's one of my absolute. This is in the top 5 vampire movies for me. I love this movie. I've seen this movie many times.
It's a good twist on the genre. It makes up its own rules about vampirism, but they all do.
Yeah.
But it's just
knowingly a comic book movie. Like, it calls itself out for that, which is great for like us.
And also, it is one of those, like Fright Night, that successfully walks a line of like, this is geared for younger folks, but we're not going to skimp on the stuff that should freak you out. That's scary. That's gross.
It's firmly an R-rated movie as well.
And unlike this one, which is hampered at points by its 80s-ness, where the hairs or the hair or the lighting and things like that is so very 1980s, The Lost Boys is the 1980s, and yet it should be. So, right. I mean, it fits. It is a contemporary film. Mm-hmm. So even though eyes today that have never seen it would sit there going, God, what a museum piece, I think it needs to be the 1980s.
Well, it's firmly set in the 1980s. Even now, if you were to watch it as a new movie, it plays as a period piece, and a very good one. And it's still, you talk about a movie that moves, too. I mean, pacing's going to feel lightning compared to this thing. The great Joel Schumacher. It's got a lot of style and excitement.
I remember a down moment in that movie. It's just, even when they're just establishing characters, it's well done and you're with it. Mm-hmm. Even when they're
great cast.
Great cast.
Cry, little sister.
And a great soundtrack.
Yeah.
So we're both very much looking forward to next week.
And we will be joined by a guest next week, because our good friend Elliot Lewis will be back on the show. Because I know Lost Boys is a favorite of theirs as well. So they immediately were like, Lost Boys, that's what I'm doing on the show. So yeah, we'll have Elliot with us to also, just for the love fest that will be that episode.
Wait, does that mean I need to shower and put on antiperspirant?
I mean, that may just be for your own good, since we're on, via telecommunications here or whatever, but
I just want to make nice for the guest.
Yeah.
Always make nice for the guest.
We do, yeah. We're going to put out a cheese plate.
Oh, nice. Good. Get that Safeway platter.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So that'll be next week on the show.
I'm looking forward to it. It makes this week almost worth it.
Yeah. I was very happy to be like, oh, thank God, Lost Boys is next. So we'll talk about that next week, but that is going to do it for this week's episode of Campbell and Jones Meet the Monsters. I'm John Campbell.
I'm Brendan Jones.
And remember, there are such things as monsters.
Stan, you don't have to put